back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
It's just Tom Thibodeau and James Dolan in a room with a Magic 8 Ball.
I don't think Dolan's in this. Dolan doesn't know a damn thing about
Dolan owns the Magic 8 Ball. That's why he's in the room.
Yeah.
He gets to hold it and
He's
shake
got
it.
9 security guards making sure nobody steals his Magic 8 Ball or says anything bad about him.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Lager Room. It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you. And with me, as always, are none other than Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Howdy.
Hello, guys. I also want to say happy birthday to my sister Maria, who's
Happy birthday, Maria.
Happy
slightly
birthday,
older
Maria.
than me today.
Slightly older than you. So
Nice.
she's 24 now?
Yeah, sure.
27, come on.
27, right. What's a couple years between friends? Happy birthday, Maria. How's everybody doing today? How you doing? What's
I
going
don't
on?
know. I haven't had a chance to really think about it, but
No,
I think okay.
pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
How,
The food was good, at least.
food was decent today.
I mean Sunday.
Oh, on Sunday. Yeah, well, the food
Yeah.
was good. The food was good. Yeah, I can't say the same about anything else, really, for Sunday.
I thought it was
Yeah.
absolutely just fabulous.
It was a wonderful, and the halftime show. Oh my God!
Well, yeah. Well,
hey,
finally,
ever beat that?
Somebody in the NFL knows how to wear a face mask. They weren't wearing chin diapers. They were wearing face pampers.
They were wearing jock straps.
They were wearing muggies.
That should be the standard mask, I think, forever.
I think it should.
Jock strap.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
That's, it works.
that's right.
Well, apparently it did, and that might be why they had to put them on, because maybe it was part garment, part safety precaution.
Well, I think when the weekend
Well, they had to wait till halftime because the players had to take them off.
when the weekend was yeah, that's
Very true.
so the hierarchy of the dancers.
That's why.
They
That's
But
why
when he was
were a little,
halftime
they were a
is
little
so
damp.
long.
They were a
They
little
were.
damp.
Did you notice they didn't come out right away?
No, yeah,
no, they didn't. When he was singing "I Can't Feel My Face," he wanted the dancers to really know what he meant.
I
This is
couldn't listen
No.
to him, but he's like a bad Bruno Mars impersonator who looks like Zeke Elliott.
Please, Bruno Mars blows him away.
That's what I mean. I said he's a bad Bruno Mars
Very, very,
impersonator.
very bad Bruno Mars.
Yeah, I don't think he got a lot of good press for that.
No.
But I'll tell you what, I was not impressed necessarily by his performance. It was okay. I don't know much about his music anyway. Getting Lost in the Maze I thought was fun, and the face diapers was interesting. But it was kind of nice to just sort of see, for the most part, a kind of straightforward musical performance.
Was it?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, there's always going to be dancers around and stuff, but I think it was just to kind of have somebody come out and perform their music, and okay, yay, halftime, yay. That's it. It didn't really need to be anything. I don't know. Maybe there were statements being made.
Your
I
ideas
didn't
are
get them.
straightforward and mine are very different.
Well, it wasn't
Straightforward.
It wasn't 2 guitars and a bass and a drummer and a singer on stage, but it was just kind of a musical performance. I mean, again, getting
There was
lost
no
in
other.
the-
There was no other.
No, there were no gimmicks. There was no featuring, no holograms.
Nobody lowered from the top
Right,
of the
no
stadium.
fireworks. Just a guy came out and he sang and he walked through a maze of lights.
And he
And
didn't bring
people
out
had
30
diapers on
other
their
stars with him to take the,
Okay.
which might have been
These-
actually better, actually, to be honest
Right.
with you. It might have actually
Right. But
improved the performance.
These days, I think that, for many of the modern acts, counts as kind of normal.
Well, maybe it also spoke to the amount of money that they wanted to spend on the halftime show, too.
Well, maybe.
I think Black Flag singing Rise Above from a parking lot across the street would have been better.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there. But
I think
I'm just saying it was kind of nice to see a quote-unquote more traditional
think-
performance.
I understand what you're saying, but I think Green Day's performance on NFL Honors was better than, the 8 minutes they played.
Green Day,
now.
those guys are so old. They're not.
And
Well, you know what, though? I mean, I always
they're not quite green anymore.
They're
no,
far from green.
They're mold day.
Do you have a dime to listen to me whine? I listen to my Clash records too often.
Yeah, well, there you go. That pretty much sums it up right there. Yeah, it was an interesting day. It was an interesting Super Bowl. It was an interesting lot of interesting stuff about that Super Bowl. I mean, let's put it this way: it was the Nielsen ratings came out. It was the worst rated Super Bowl in the last 14 years. So
not at the start. It can't be at the start, though, right?
I
guess they don't.
I don't know how they did the.
They just have a total number.
I'm not sure the total number. Yeah, exactly.
I would imagine there were a lot of people watching at the beginning,
probably, and then turned
maybe
it off.
Not so
halfway
many at the
quarter.
end. Yeah,
I thought it was great. Watching a team just run the ball at the end of the game and just watching an offensive line just dominate another team that's supposedly going to be the next dynasty. And watching a 43-year-old man win his 7th Super Bowl was absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I was going to put, but toying with the idea of putting the Tampa Bay defense on our list, our top 10 list this week.
They played great. And so did their offensive line.
However, as great as they played, I couldn't take away the fact that no one on the Kansas City Chiefs could seem to catch the ball.
No.
And Mahomes was an absolute, to quote some of the Tampa Bay receivers, magician, and really didn't get a lot of help in a number of ways from his team. Don't want to take anything away from Tampa Bay.
It's a team sport. It's a team sport. This is what I hear all the time.
They played
when
great.
Brady wins, it's a team sport. It's a system. It's Belichick.
No. I'm just
saying.
When
Mahomes loses, he's the most magical player on the planet.
He did
everybody else
on that field that no one else could probably do.
Let's be realistic.
Tell me the other quarterback in the league that's going to throw a pass 30 yards on a dart sideways while he's sideways. Like,
hold on. Let's pull that up. For 1 second, let's pull it up. Here. There. Look at that.
I'm just saying he didn't get much help.
Look at that.
I don't think
here's another view if you can't tell from there.
I don't think they would have won anyway, but he didn't get much help. It wasn't
just – look, this is a team that everybody was ready, if they won, to put in one of the best teams of all time. This is a team that won 16 games. So – you have to give Tampa Bay some credit.
I give Tampa Bay defense. I give the Tampa Bay defense and Todd Bowles all the credit in the world for that scheme they came up with.
And Tampa Bay's offense came out and dominated and took over the game. And there were two old guys that executed really fucking well to give them the lead.
But let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this for 1 second. You know how well the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line played on Sunday night, right?
And how good, and also how well the Tampa Bay defensive line.
I'm not taking anything away from the Tampa Bay defensive line, not at all. Please make no mistake. I'm not doing. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is, and I've had this discussion with several people, and we've talked about it too. The bottom line is, Patrick Mahomes had almost, like literally just a couple shy, almost 500 yards worth of scrambling on Sunday night. Not running, not rushing.
He did
running around in the back.
He did the same thing that Aaron Rodgers has been doing, minus this past season for the past 4 seasons.
Almost every single play. I'm not taking anything away from these guys, but in almost every single play, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, and JPP were in the backfield chasing
26 out of 54 or 56 or whatever it was.
Yeah, chasing.
Dropbacks, he was pressured.
It's the same thing when the Giants beat the Patriots. They pressured Brady. It's the same.
Well, that's how you beat Brady. You punch him in the mouth.
How you beat Mahomes too.
Okay.
I think it probably goes for a lot of quarterbacks.
It's how you beat any
team. Brady didn't have 2 receivers drop passes.
You block and tackle. You block and tackle better.
You did,
One more time, look at this picture. Here, this is a front view.
I get it. Right? I get it.
But look at the other end of this. Ready? This is after it hit him in the face mask.
Yeah. I'm just saying he's in
the end zone.
He didn't have a lot of help.
He didn't catch that ball.
Tampa Bay did a great job.
And that wasn't the only ball that hit a face mask and fell off.
No. There were several of them. And
we're used to watching NFL players get hit in the face mask and drop the ball. We watch the Giants and Jets predominantly.
Are we really comparing the Giants and the Jets?
No, but I'm just saying. Look, part of this. I'll be honest with you. I'm Bruce Arians is a guy who fascinates me beyond no means. I think he is the antithesis of almost every other coach in the NFL.
Okay.
But and last year I gave the Chiefs and Andy Reid and all of these people a lot of credit because I actually thought Reid and Bieniemy and the entire team really they prepared better and they outcoached the other team.
Sure.
I think this year, And look, if you want to give Arians credit or not, sometimes people want to give the head coach credit. Sometimes they want to give the Todd Bowles credit. I think all of those coaches and assistant coaches did a hell of a job with game planning. They out-game planned and out-executed Kansas City, especially in the first half. And then, yes, some things happened that were fortuitous to Tampa Bay, but that's with every Super Bowl winner. There's always an element of luck and something going wrong for the other team that allows you to win. And then in the fourth quarter, Tampa Bay continued to execute really well. They didn't need Brady to throw the ball 50 times because they were running it down their throat. And that's old school football. And yes, that's Leonard Fournette and whoever the backup back is escaping me right now. But that offensive line for Tampa Bay, as much as the defense of Tampa Bay is to obviously be heralded for their performance, that offensive line of Tampa Bay, and you could see it at the end of the game, they dominated Kansas City. They dominated them. They did. And they kept the ball out of Mahomes' hand as much as they could. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. If you're starting a team right now and you don't take Patrick Mahomes, you're an idiot. But it's a team sport. Right. Patrick Mahomes also has the most talent around him on an offense. And
that talent let him down.
It did. And the other so-called washed up talent, the talent that was a nuisance, the talent that was a distraction, the talent that was no good, the talent that was a cancer. One of them caught 2 touchdown passes and the other one caught the other touchdown pass. And Leonard Fournette, who was given up for, had a hell of a game. Again, though, they executed really well. And it all comes down. I'll say this. Defense does win you championships. That's a cliche that says a lot. But what the reverse of that is that if you look at almost any Super Bowl, the team whose offensive line executes better than the other typically wins. And Tampa Bay won on the offensive line in that game.
Yeah, of course it did. Well, right. Because, look, Kansas City had neither of their starting offensive ends.
Well, they had a tackle playing out of position. Here's my point, though, with all this.
Their offensive line was a mismatch.
Their offensive line was hurt in the beginning of the season. They were down 3 starters from last year. That was the difference between this year's team and last year's team was the offensive line. And one guy was playing out of position because they had one additional injury, but that other mishmashed offensive line won 16 games.
But no, because they had their starting left tackle until the AFC
one guy.
Remember, the most important position on the line, though.
We'll throw away the accomplishments of. I mean, look,
no one is throwing away any.
It can't go. It can't go either.
No, all I'm saying is that Patrick Mahomes didn't have a lot of help.
He didn't. He had no. And that had no help on the other end of the ball
of the game.
Neither did Patrick Ewing.
This is very true, but he had no help on the other end of the ball, none at all, 0 help on the other end of the ball.
He had his head coach calling timeouts right before the end of the first half, giving the Patriots time to set their play. I mean, it's just there were a number of mistakes, whether it be drops, whether it be plays called. There was 0 adjustment made by Kansas City,
none whatsoever.
They got out-coached.
No adjustments at half. It was ridiculous.
They sure did. They sure did.
And this is look, Andy. There's been a lot of love for Andy Reid over the last 24 months.
Well, he's a lovable guy.
And he finally won. He finally got over the hump. But a lot of the things that was the plague of Andy Reid and a criticism of Andy Reid in the past have come back. He's Tampa Bay came out and played an excellent game. Did Kansas City's super talented, super fast, best offense in the history of the NFL have a bad day? Yeah, they did. Yeah. It's the same reason why an undefeated Patriots team could lose to Eli Manning. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason why a Buffalo Bills.
Don't take anything away from Eli Manning either.
A Buffalo Bills team that broke all sorts of record for scoring. Couldn't muster up enough to be. There's instances like this where it happens, and if they played 10 times, how many times would Tampa Bay beat them? I don't know. Tampa Bay lost by 3 earlier in the season, and they came back after getting off to the worst start they had all season long. So I don't know. I want to give Tampa Bay credit. I don't want to diminish what Tampa
No,
Bay
I want to give them credit too. I don't. There's been a lot of talk about them being this incredible, amazing team, and I just think
they peaked at the right time.
Some of their defensive prowess has to do with the fact that Kansas City couldn't hang on to the ball.
They peaked at the right time.
They sure did.
And they could thank the Giants for getting rid of players who they should have held on to add to their defense. I mean, they peaked at the right time. They had a great balance of younger players and veteran players. But this is the formula for look. The last defensive team to dominate a Super Bowl, really dominated, were the Broncos against the Panthers, right?
Sure.
And Cam Newton that year was unstoppable. There's no way the Broncos can stop this team. We had an aging, decrepit Peyton Manning against this dynamic young quarterback who everybody was saying was the best quarterback in the game, and it was the MVP, I believe, that year. Okay?
Yeah, it was.
The Broncos had Von Miller in his prime, and they had a balance of veteran players and younger players and they peaked at the right time.
Well,
that's what happened. The next year they weren't back,
right?
Because they didn't hold on to that formula.
No.
The other thing for Tampa Bay is, and this I think is part of the brilliance of Brady. Just look at the guys that he brought in.
Mm-hmm.
He brought in Gronk, he brought in Leonard Fournette, and he got AB there.
Yeah,
and let's point this out. Those were the only guys that scored on Sunday night. I just want to point that out. The four of them were responsible for the scoring, other than Suck Up.
I know
they were responsible for the scoring.
What were Gronk's final numbers? I know he had more than 3 catches,
but yeah,
I know he had more than 3 catches for 31 yards, but
60 or 80 yards, something like that. He didn't come close to 100, but it was 60 or 80 yards. Yeah.
But he did get the 2 touchdowns, I predict.
It's the same reason why you bring in an Andre Iguodala. He's not going to blow you away in the regular season, but he's going to show up in big playoff games.
Yeah.
This is Brady. Brady's no idiot. Bruce Arians said it. He wasn't just a starting quarterback this year. He was an assistant coach.
Yep. And he said he did give up some control.
Yeah. And the fact that he could bring Gronk, let's face it, Gronk's really lovable, but Gronk had no interest in playing. And if Gronk stayed healthy, he could, arguably, and he still is in the conversation for the best tight ends of all time. But Gronk paced himself during the regular season and had 3 or 4 of the best routes I've ever seen him run in the Super Bowl. He was finally healthy for a Super Bowl, at least somewhat healthy. And Brady knew exactly how to exploit that. And the same thing with AB. Look, Antonio Brown is, by all accounts, not the easiest person to accommodate. But somehow Brady convinced him not only to come to the Patriots, but then to follow him here to Tampa Bay, be patient, allow for him to be able to be accepted into the system. And then, on the biggest stage, he had somebody to throw the ball to.
Yeah, you really didn't hear a peep out of AB
during
the regular season,
Gronkowski had 6 receptions for 67 yards and 2 TDs.
2 touchdowns. And what was the final point total? For the game, 40?
Yes.
Final point
and how many did the Knicks score in the first half of that game?
59.
59,
yeah.
It's incredible. I should have gone to Vegas.
You should have. Did Travis Kelce have more than 100 yards? What was it?
Yes,
he might have.
He did. Yeah.
Did he?
10 receptions for 133 yards.
Yeah.
So just none of them got into the end zone. That was the only problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and he was
He was the only one that was catching the ball. That's why he had 130.
He was the only one that was catching, and he was the only one that was open a lot of the time. Right. They made sure that Tyreek Hill. What were Hill's numbers?
I think Hill had negative 20 yards, and I think he owes the NFL a touchdown.
Look, here's actual numbers from what Tampa Bay's defense did.
Tyreek Hill had. Hold on.
He had 3 receptions.
4 catches, 3 receptions.
7 receptions for 73 yards.
Oh, he caught a couple. Yeah, but he had
he'd be the leading receiver on the Giants any week. I mean, I'm being serious. I mean, that's not a horrible game. Yeah, he had a drop. Look, Tampa Bay only blitzed less than 10% of the time. So 90+% of the time they were rushing 4 down linemen.
Sure.
That allowed them to flood.
So that's all they needed.
That allowed them to flood. Look, but Kansas City should have ran the ball.
Yeah.
They didn't.
They tried. Edwards-Helaire had 64 yards rushing, and Mahomes had 33.
Well, of course,
533 if you count the scrambling.
Right. Yeah.
The 500 pre-pass yards and then
Right.
33 rushing yards.
Right.
I can't. Never mind.
Look, Tampa Bay played an amazing game. They did. Quite frankly, they played an amazing game on defense. I mean, they did what they had to do on offense, and it got them 31 points. Imagine and
just a mediocre offensive performance.
Well, it was. Brady only threw for 201 yards.
Only.
I mean,
only. How many touchdowns?
Only three.
How many interceptions?
0 interceptions. No,
horrible game.
I didn't say it was. Did I say it was a horrible game? No, I said it wasn't. Brady has the record for yards in a Super Bowl,
right?
With 515.
Right.
So he threw for like 2/5 of that on
exactly.
Sunday and got 31 points. My point is, if he had a 515-yard day, they would have had 75 points.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
but I think if you ask Brady all these years, would he rather throw for 200 yards and have a defense that performs like that?
Sure, absolutely.
He would say yes.
Of course. Who wouldn't?
Right.
Wouldn't? I would rather. Yeah, who wouldn't rather win the game 31-9, and would rather win it like 55-53?
But he had not of this caliber defenses, but he had still good defenses in New England a number of years.
Right.
You know.
But when they got up big and they were able to run the ball, and so that's old school football. That's the right thing to do.
Leonard Fournette at 89 yards.
He didn't have to build up his yardage by dumping down, to some guy that they found in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, some 5'7" white guy that just fills in, when they can't get a receiver in New England. They were able to run the ball, and
they were. But let's look at it though. I mean, Edwards-Helaire had rushed 9 times for 64 yards. Fournette ran 16 times for 89 yards. The longest run for Edwards-Helaire was 26 yards. The longest run for Fournette was 27 yards. So, I mean, they were 25 yards. Fournette had 25 yards more than Edwards-Helaire. And
9 carries is not exactly committing to the run. But
nine carries, that's the problem. It's the amount of carries.
When you're down 21-9 at the half.
You don't have time to run the ball.
Remember when Peyton Manning won his last Super Bowl? Oh, my God, they couldn't have done it without him. He was the best game manager. His veteran leadership was what carried the Broncos. He went 13-23 for 141 yards, no touchdowns and an interception, and a rating of 56.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It's crazy.
But they had a spectacular defense.
They're great. They're crazy. I mean, they they could have put. I mean, Brock Osweiler could have quarterbacked that team to the Super Bowl win that day.
What were Flacco's numbers?
Maybe not.
On the Ravens maybe not. What were Dilfer's numbers?
My point being, is that there is something beyond the numbers of being a quarterback in the NFL. What you don't do is as important as what you do.
Sure.
Absolutely.
No, you're right.
4 touchdowns and 2 picks that lead to 14 points for the other team. Joe Flacco was a good game manager, yes, on a good defensive team, and he came up. Same thing with Eli. Same thing with a lot of these quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls because it's a team sport. Mm-hmm. So I'm not diminishing what the
offense did the right thing and the defense did the right thing.
I actually don't think the Broncos would have won without Manning on the Super Bowl without Manning on that team because there were the intangibles that he brought to it. My point being is that Brady brought those same things and leadership and, by the way, threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and it was only 200 yards. If it was 1977, it'd be we'd be talking about him like he's the next coming of Roger Staubach.
That was a record back then, wasn't it?
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. So look, you got to give it up. You got to give it up. And yes, Tampa Bay Kansas City will probably be back again next year.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Well, all right. Well, Kansas City, they will probably be back next year. Will Tampa Bay be back next year?
Tampa Bay's primed to be back. I was trying to look.
Is it going to be a repeat?
Well, it could be, but it's there. I think there's a slimmer margin for Tampa Bay to repeat than there is for Kansas City. Kansas City's loaded. Tampa Bay's got some players who, is Gronk got to come back for another year? I don't know. I don't know what his contract situation is.
He's a free agent. He's a free agent.
He's a free agent. They've got some other free agents there. On the defensive side, they've got some guys who are on 1-year contracts. Right. There's a lot more variables on Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay has to perform the way they did down the stretch.
Sure, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. But
look,
here's the thing.
Tampa Bay beat New Orleans, Green Bay, and Kansas City in the playoffs and to win a Super Bowl.
Well, they beat Washington too. Don't forget
Washington. And Washington was playing good football at the time.
Washington, a good defense and a backup quarterback who had a nice day.
And it was a close game.
They beat Drew Brees, who was basically a shell of himself.
Sure.
And they had a great win against Aaron Rodgers. So, this is a really nice playoff run, but I don't think it was one of the great playoff runs of all time.
No, I think there's been greater playoff runs than this. It was a good one, but there's been greater playoff runs. But things I've heard, like I was listening to a couple of interviews with Bruce Arians and a couple of them, and basically it's Brady's team, and what he says goes, and that's over Arians, that's over their GM,
Well, there was
what Brady wants, he gets. So Brady wanted AB, he got AB. Brady wanted Fournette, he got Fournette. Brady wanted Gronk, he got Gronk.
That point in the game where Brady was yelling at the sideline, I guess they had called a play, and he was saying no, and yelling out what they were actually going to do.
Right.
So it wasn't like he was audibling at the line; he was telling the coach
right
before he went to the huddle. No, this is what we're going to do.
No, I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't game plan the defense with Todd Bowles. But
no. But that's the juice that Arian admitted he gave him because it was the right thing to do.
Sure. And he said on the stand, he said on the dais when he was on the podium or whatever you want to call it, when he was getting his MVP, his fifth MVP now. He said he's coming back. He'll be back. So he'll honor his. He's going to play his second year in Tampa. So
sure.
But will they repeat? Will they repeat? Will they get back to the Super Bowl?
It's so hard to repeat. It's so hard to repeat now.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah,
the last quarterback that repeated was who was it? Brady. So.
Well, I mean, if they
and before that it was I think the Cowboys.
No, before that it was Elway.
Oh, that's right.
And they've got to keep some of those defensive players around.
An aging quarterback on his last legs,
right?
But who are they going to have to beat next year?
Probably Mahomes. Or actually, probably Josh.
No,
Allen,
I mean to get back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you mean throughout the? It depends.
Same teams they beat this year. I mean, the Saints. Breeze is retired. I mean, maybe that puts the Saints in a better position. I actually don't think. I think Drew Brees is still playing at a very high caliber. It's going to be Green Bay again, and there'll be some team that comes up that surprises us. Right? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And
now they're saying, and by they I mean
I think the Cowboys will be a lot better next year. The Redskins will be, the Washington football team will be a lot better.
People are saying that there could be 16 or 18 quarterbacks on the move in this offseason.
Yeah, there's a lot. We're going to get to that too. I got a lot to talk about with that.
So we don't know who's going to be where, other than Matt Stafford and.
But we do know Patrick Mahomes is going to be in Kansas City.
We do know that.
Josh Allen is going to be in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay.
Area Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay.
Tom Brady's is going to be in Tampa Bay.
And Daniel Jones is going to be in New York.
Is going to be in New York.
So there you go.
They're talking about
I got some Wilson. I got some interesting news for you on that one.
Russell Wilson may be being moved.
Russell Wilson.
Dak Prescott, he doesn't have a contract right now. So
I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere.
Well, he's the reports are that he's beyond frustrated, and that word is in there, beyond frustrated. So, I don't know whether that's anything that can be worked out or what. I'm sure it can be. You would imagine that Pete Carroll will try, but
he wants to play in a garbage fill. Come on over.
We'll take you. Come on.
We'll take you. Could you imagine?
Could you imagine? Just 1 second. Could you imagine Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, the quarterbacks for the two New York football teams?
I think it'd be fantastic. Can I imagine it? Yeah.
Sure.
And both of them play for the Knicks when they're not playing football.
We do have some Knicks news. I don't know if it's good Knicks news. I think it's good Knicks news, but I don't know if it's.
I'm indifferent.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, a couple other things on the Super Bowl really quick. There was a report. obviously, well, first of all, kudos to Tampa, also the first team to play and win in their home stadium. So, but
yeah.
There was a couple of reports, obviously, and we're not going to get into this because we've already debated what we all feel happened, but a couple of those calls in the second quarter specifically. There was, what was his name? Hold on. Terry.
It's the ref report.
Yeah, the ref report. Yeah, Terry McCauley. He's a veteran NFL referee. He serves as the NBC's officiating advisor on Sunday Night Football. He tweeted immediately. He said, "Neither defensive hold call on Kansas City in the second quarter comes close to the standard we saw the entire season for that call, and certainly not what we saw in the Tampa Bay Green Bay game."
It's all rigged. It's all rigged.
I didn't say that. I'm just telling you.
Ball was deflated. The refs are on Brady's side.
Well, listen, it's just another reason why Tampa Bay won. Not because they were good, just because.
Look, it's another. Look,
those are the most obvious plays. I saw 17 holding calls, literally on Kansas City, that could have been called because they were desperate and they were grabbing and dragging people to the ground when Mahomes was being chased around. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Sure.
Kansas City got their ass fucking beat. Give the greatest football player of all time some credit, and let's move on.
On that note, there has been a question now out there. Okay, yeah, he's the greatest. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Then he became the greatest football player of all time.
He's the greatest system quarterback.
Is he the
greatest system? Yeah, he just whatever system he brings, it seems to win.
Hold on. Now people are saying, is he the greatest athlete of all time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's so hard. You can't say.
Jesse.
I mean, where do people like Jesse Owens come into play? Where does Muhammad Ali or some of the greatest boxers of all time? I mean, we're always debating this with the big three.
You can't even do that. I don't cross sports and everything.
Where does Gretzky, Bobby Orr?
Well, how do you put like Tom Brady? Let's say
against Lawrence Taylor.
Serena Williams.
Right. I would argue Serena
Wayne
Williams.
Gretzky.
Jesse Owens, Jim Thorpe.
Thorpe.
How do you put those people even in the same category?
It's stupid to argue.
You can't.
You realize you do have two New York Giants in that statement right there.
Yeah.
Well, trying to keep the show local.
Lawrence Taylor and Jim Thorpe, so Yeah. But in any event,
stick Carl Lewis in there too.
Because here's the argument:
and Joe Lewis.
If you're looking at championships in team sports, then you have to look at somebody like a Yogi Berra or Bill Russell, or I'm drawing a blank on the guy who played most of the Canadian championships. You have to look at then you look at guys that have won that are right behind Brady.
Doug Flutie,
right, yeah, Doug Flutie. I mean. If you're basing it on height, then he's the most accomplished, other than Nadia Comaneci,
right, exactly.
And Muggsy Bogues,
right. Who is great on the parallel bar.
Let's just on that. I mean,
it's stupid to argue.
Somebody mentioned the Chiefs O-line better be taking Mahomes out to dinner every night for that. But we actually do have a picture of Patrick Mahomes. Looking at his O-line after the game right there. But now, in any event.
What's with the Mater D outfit for the weekend? So he looked like he was like he was like filtering and summoning like half Michael Jackson, half like Mater D at Applebee's. It was
Mater Jackson.
What he was going for.
Yeah.
Michael D. Yeah, it's crazy. And there was a couple of tweets that went out. Here we go. Tom Brady had tweeted to his father. He says, "Just want to say thanks to my dad for always believing in me. I wouldn't be here without him. Love you." And then his father tweeted back, Eli Manning, "You're welcome, son. I love you too." So, but I thought that was rather funny. I did not make that. That was out there. I pulled that up for you. But I thought that was a little humorous. And then this one. Just around them.
It's like Cher thanking Jimmy Page.
Right. Why not? I actually like to see that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Then there was this one too. These two guys, they're calling them heroes because without them, Tom would have 10 rings.
Yeah.
So this is true. So. But anyway, bringing it to a screeching halt. It was an interesting game. It was a little on the boring side because you want to see a good game, right? I mean, yeah, Tampa, kudos to the defense, kudos to Brady, kudos to everybody. They won the game. Yes, they won the game. not going to sit here and tell conspiracy and any of this crap, but they won the game. Kudos to them. But you want to see a good game, right? You want to see a competitive game. You know, maybe the beginning to the middle of the fourth quarter, let it become, okay, it's obvious then this team is going to win. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a comeback, whatever. But you want to see good football. You don't want to see what we saw, you know, unless you are a Tom Brady or a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. You know, obviously as one-sided that way, but just as a football fan and not having your own, you know, dog in the show, you want to see a good football game, and it really wasn't. It really wasn't from the beginning of the game. And the halftime show didn't help either, but we talked about that already.
But the food was good.
And the commercials were some of them were okay. Some of them were
yeah, they were all right.
I haven't seen most of them.
I didn't pay a whole lot of attention.
The Matthew McConaughey one with the Doritos was pretty funny, actually.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the this is how good they are. I can't even remember what it was for. The no, it's for the car with Will Ferrell and Aquafina. And
that was on early, right? Wasn't that in like one of the first? I missed that one.
It was. Yeah, it was the electric was.
Yeah, the Evo.
The Evo, yeah.
The Evo. But I didn't feel like the commercials were appointment TV. Usually they're, you know.
I think a lot of the big names pulled out this year.
They did.
I think
there was reports that said Bud was not going to have any commercials, and they had 2 or 3 or even 4 in the game. So Pepsi didn't. Pepsi didn't have any commercials. There was Doritos. There was a couple of car commercials. There was a couple of episodic commercials too with Paramount Plus, the new streaming service.
Yeah.
They had that was.
Well, Pepsi could have lit the Weeknd's hair on fire.
Being somebody who being somebody who uses plant-based products, I'd like to apologize for the whole alternative milk world for that fucking Oatly commercial. It's not going to help anybody.
All right. We have a commercial. We have a comment here. Got to pull this up right here. Al Carl, goddamn stupid bullshit refs. How the hell did they miss that call?
That's a good John. That's a good John impersonation.
Well, that's just what he's trying to do, actually.
Yeah.
Al is
There's not enough swearing in it, though.
Not enough poop emojis.
Al is a devout Patriots fan, so you know he's kind of partial to Brady. And folks, and you too, actually, remember the story I told you about the Zamboni driver,
right,
waving with my cousin. Right, this is the man right here.
Okay.
Right here, Al. That's the
good job,
legend Al Carl, right there.
Al, nice job. A couple of more,
couple more poop emojis and a few other
and
four-letter words.
A couple of more other poop emojis, and you'd be right there, man.
Right there with me. Yeah, there you go. Thanks,
please,
Al.
and please don't. We don't want to condone this.
You don't want to do that. In any event. All right. Well, that's the Super Bowl pretty
much. Your dream
of
being an NFL ref is you're not helping your cause.
I'm not. No, I couldn't. You couldn't. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
John finally becomes a ref and gets stonewalled by the very crew that he's been trashing for years. You're the guy with the poop emojis, right?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Texting.
Enjoy being the Gatorade judge.
That's there right. You go.
Well, let's
good use of blue Gatorade though. There was a different color Gatorade this year.
Yeah, blue Gatorade. You're right. That was a different color. It was nice. It was a nice change up, and it definitely was a contrast to the uniforms that were being worn on the field too, right? Right. No red Gatorade, no orange Gatorade, no yellow Gatorade. So you had that's probably why they did it too.
Yes.
Anyway,
it was part of the whole costume wardrobe department.
Absolutely,
decision.
No. Between them and the jock straps on the faces of the halftime show, that was the whole.
They had 2 jobs:
recycle, repurpose, reuse.
They had 2 jobs: jock straps on the dancers' faces and blue Gatorade.
And blue Gatorade. That's all they had to do.
And they did extremely well.
Absolutely,
100% success rate.
Let's talk about let's talk about some of the quarterbacks you were talking about before. Like we said, Russell Wilson is beyond frustrated. I don't see him leaving Seattle. Do either of you?
No.
Honestly. But,
I could see it.
Well, the reports out there are the type of guy he is. He's definitely going to want a classy exit if he is going to leave. He's not going to be like
it's too early
Deshaun
in his
Watson
career.
And say, I want the hell out of here.
It's too early in his career. Plus, all right. Where is
not
Russell
as late
Wilson?
as
I sort of Seattle's one of those towns where if you're a player there, you're gonna be a hero no matter what, you know. So I thought the same thing about Gary Payton, but Gary Payton late in his career left, you know. So where would Russell Wilson fit in where he would have an immediately better chance of winning a championship than he has with Seattle right now.
Right now?
Yes. I mean, Seattle did win, 12 games this year. You think Indianapolis is definitively better than Seattle?
No. Okay. I said no. But
they're built to win right now.
I think it's lateral.
Could be a lateral move, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, don't forget. I mean, he could go to the Jets.
Like I said, a team that where he has a.
He could go to the Bears. He could go to the Bears.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think that I think Russell Wilson on the Seahawks next year, and Russell Wilson on the Bears. The Seahawks are a better team.
Yeah.
So I think the places where he could go that would be maybe a step up, which would be lateral, but I could see him going there. But I don't think it's definitive. But it could be in a few years, or maybe Indianapolis. I think San Francisco.
Well, I was going to say San Francisco would be the other.
But I don't think San Francisco is an immediate better move.
Not only that, but if Seattle's going to let him go, there's no way Seattle's trading him in their division.
No.
He could go to Dallas.
That was the other team that I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got options.
He does.
But I don't think, I don't think it's
definitively
better. I mean, unless he just wants out and he's willing to go.
Well, yeah, but maybe he's not looking for. I mean.
Now here's
definitively a place better. If he's really upset, he's going, well, where can I go that at least I'm going to have a shot at winning?
So I have an answer for you. Here's a team that I think is better with him and on that team better than all of the other examples we just gave. The Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have a lot going for them right now. And, they can get a lot for everything they have going.
And there's one other team that if he's patient, I could see him going to.
Go ahead.
The Patriots.
Yeah. Well, there's some talk there too, not just with him, but other things. Let me ask you this really quick to wrap up the Russell Wilson conversation. Do you think his beyond frustration might just be his way to get a little bit more control, i.e., what Brady has done in?
Yeah, he wants to speak. He wants to speak up, and he doesn't want to be forgotten.
His voice heard, and yeah.
He just signed a huge contract.
Oh yeah, it was huge a couple of years ago. Yeah.
I mean, he tweeted with the stupid tweet with him and his wife in bed. I mean, at some point, we have to get back to the reality that you make a decision, you sign with the team. At some point, you have to at least come close to honoring that. That contract.
Yeah, I don't understand what all these football players are doing. I mean,
because it's turning into the NBA.
Look at what the NBA does. I mean, they stay with their teams. They're the
NBA doesn't.
That's called sarcasm.
Yeah,
he could go to
he could join the
he could go to Vegas too.
He could go to the Brooklyn Nets.
Russell Wilson on the Raiders. Makes them a much.
But again, he makes everybody a much better team.
He makes any team he goes to.
But he doesn't. But there's no team that
except for maybe Kansas City.
Well, he's not going there.
Yeah.
And the only other team if Rodgers is really serious. I mean, the one interesting trade, if you flip flop them, that would be interesting.
Wilson and
Rodgers.
Sure, flip them. That would be interesting.
It would be
very, very much would be interesting. Let's back up without getting into the other stuff now, or it'd be hard to without jumping into the Jets really quick. The Jets, no new news on the whole Watson trade front.
There's no new news with him at all.
At all. It's been quiet right now, but. They're talking about Darnold, and not so much what they want to do as far as keeping him, but if they were to
what they want,
right? If they were to whether Watson happens or not, if they're going to take Justin Fields or Zach Wilson,
that's the big thing.
At two,
there's a lot of chatter about Wilson going with the second pick.
Absolutely,
starting to sound almost like a foregone conclusion that Bradford Darnold is gone.
Bradford Darnold is gone now. Where is he going is the question. The 49ers are actually they're very high on Watson, who wouldn't be, but they're actually high on Sam Darnold, the 49ers. They're making calls and looking. And as far as the 49ers go, obviously they want to move Garoppolo. If that were the case, they'd want to move Garoppolo. And wouldn't it be interesting if he winds up back on the Pats?
I think that ship has sailed.
I think it has too. But the Patriots they might be looking into Marcus Mariota.
Well, but the word was at the time that Belichick liked Garoppolo, and it was Brady that wanted to get rid of him. So
he didn't. Yeah, Brady didn't.
Maybe
want Garoppolo
Belichick
there.
welcomes him back.
Maybe, because I think you'll see the Patriots draft a quarterback in the first round this year for the first time. I think
they'll take somebody. Yeah, of course.
They'll take a quarter, and so maybe Garoppolo's there. See what happens. But I think you're going to see the Patriots not only draft a quarterback. I think you're going to see them go after a veteran quarterback. Maybe Garoppolo is the fit. I think Belichick realizes that maybe he needs somebody a little different than Garoppolo with the way in which their offense or lack thereof is constructed right now.
Well, that's why there's chatter out there that they might be looking at Mariota too.
The Patriots have the 15th pick, so
I don't know how many of the quarterbacks are going to be left at 15, but trading up might.
They seem to be able to find some diamonds in the rough in the later rounds.
Well, yeah,
that's what I mean. They might not even look for a first.
They should wait till the
quarterback.
the 6th round to get the quarterback.
199 or something like that. Whoever's there, just if it's a quarterback, take them.
That's right.
Is there a quarterback from Michigan coming out this year?
Playing
10 strike twice. A backup from Michigan.
Playing 10 Super Bowls and 90% of the world will hate him.
But in any event,
proof positive that the world hates a dynasty.
Exactly.
Even if it's one player.
One player. Yeah. And whatchamacallit, then there's also Carson Wentz too.
I don't think you'll see him on the Pats.
No,
but I also think the 49ers are high on Wentz.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, the Bears are talking to the.
I think the 49ers are smoking some LSD or something. Angel dust out there.
The Bears are talking to the Eagles.
I mean, doesn't that make all the sense in the world? I mean,
could you imagine with Carson Wentz and his backup Nick Foles on the Bears?
But I mean, is there an organization?
A Super Bowl. Sounds like a perfect formula.
There's no organization in the history of football that is so prolific in taking washed up middle of the road quarterbacks and giving them second life. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, of course I could see them on the Bears and I can see them floundering.
But by the same token, they're not very good at trading up and taking a quarterback with a high pick.
No, not at all.
They suck no matter what they do. So
the Bears, how many Super Bowls have the Bears won? One, right?
One. They've been in 2, won 1.
And let's face it, it wasn't their quarterback play.
No.
Yeah, they're like, we might as well take
you don't rate Jim McMahon in the top 10?
No.
Top 10 Chicago quarterback?
Or Jay Cutler?
Top 10 nut jobs ever in the history of sports.
All right.
Top 10 Utes?
Back to the Jets. Back to the Jets. One thing on some free agents. The Jets are showing interest in Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's fine.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to probably I think it's Perriman as a free agent.
Brashad Perriman, yeah.
I think they're probably going to let him go, which is okay with me.
And they got Jameson Crowder and...
Crowder and Mims. And,
Mimsy. Hey, Mimsy.
Whoever else. They need a running back.
They need, yeah.
Well, the longer it goes on, the less convinced I become that the Jets are going to get Watson.
Look, if the Jets can
Watson
get
or Wilson, I mean either or, right?
Neither one of them is going there.
well, yeah. Well, a lot of the mock drafts that I'm seeing right now still have the Jets taking Wilson. Now, whether or not that's to trade him to somebody else, I don't know. But I think it seems more likely than it ever has been that the Jets are seriously considering what they can get for Darnold, and if they can't get Watson, which they might not, right. I think you'll see them draft Wilson.
Yeah, you could.
And then if you can get a top-notch receiver or two, it doesn't hurt. It's not like they're
if they pull themselves out of if they're smart, they pull themselves out of the Deshaun Watson. I mean, if they can get it, that's fine, but they're going to have to give up the farm to do that. But if they pull themselves out of that game, they trade Darnold and get back something that they need or draft picks or whatever. Draft Zach Wilson at 2. They have another first-round pick from Seattle that they fleeced when they sent.
Yeah, they should get offensive linemen. They need a tight end. They need receivers. Right. So, obviously, they need a running back.
They need a running back.
38. Yeah.
So they
have
can
a
make
lot
out
of
like
holes.
bandits.
Yeah, whatever they can get it. It's,
Right.
Name one area that the Nets are not, or the Jets are not deficient in.
Kicker.
Kicker. Yeah,
No.
the Giants and Jets both have good kickers.
Yep.
And punters. They
and
get a lot of
punters.
they get a lot of practice.
They get a lot of
solid
practice.
kicking foundation for both of those teams.
Their long snappers are
Look, you know the hierarchy. It's offensive line, kicking game, quarterback.
Right. Absolutely.
And
that's
the rest how you
the
want.
hierarchy you have to go by. Absolutely.
Yeah. You get your offensive line in shape, your kicking game, and then your quarterback.
Steelers could be interested in Darnold too.
Steelers. I think the Steelers. I think Big Ben's got another year there.
Yeah, but how?
But they could get him and then have him play. Odds are
play the games that Big Ben doesn't or can't, and then he's there beyond that.
Right.
Yeah, but they're going to have to make a decision about paying him a lot of money. Well, technically they don't. They could wait till the end of 2 years, but at that point. At that
point, Ben's going to be retired at that point. And
right.
He's
if
play
Ben plays one more year, then you're going to have to pay Darnold at the end of his 4th year and decide whether you're going to, what you're going to give him. But
you don't have to because they can tag him in the 5th year if they want, depending on what he shows.
Right. Well, that's just it.
Give him the contract after the year that he plays after Ben retired.
But if he plays really well,
and that goes for anywhere,
he could end up going somewhere else.
This is true too.
It's like you kind of want to lock him up after the 4th year if you think he's
as a non-Jets fan, but somebody who wants them to make some moves. I think any of those scenarios, whether they get Deshaun Watson, I think trading Sam Darnold at this point, whether or not statistically or whatever the case might be, I think is their best move, because I think what it does is it gives them the opportunity to get the most talent that they possibly can to add on to what is going to be either a young quarterback or a veteran quarterback or a combination thereof that they're going to be grooming for their future. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if you bring in Wilson and you bring in, let's say, like a Ryan Fitzpatrick to play that first half of season, kind of what the Dolphins did with Tua.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't have to throw him right to the Wolves. And you've got all these draft picks and you're surrounding him with what you hope is going to be good talent.
Well, if you bring in a Russell Wilson, then you probably don't pick a quarterback with the 2nd pick.
No, of course
not. But do you really think Russell Wilson's going to come to the Jets?
No,
not Wilson. What am I?
Deshaun Watson.
No, the quarterbacks.
The quarterbacks.
The college quarterbacks.
Oh, Wilson.
Yeah. Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Sorry,
wrong Wilson.
Wilson.
No, I think
it's going to be your guy. Then you bring in a veteran to cover him for 6 games or 8 games or whatever it is. Right. You let him get some time looking and learning. And a guy like Fitzpatrick, did he retire? I don't know. He's the perfect, kind of like they have a couple of years ago, McCown. Sort of that been around for 15 years, knows the game, a good teacher. That's the kind of guy you want. And you put all those draft picks to good use, or at least some of them.
That's what I'm saying.
They got to hit on some of them.
It's a quantity game,
exactly.
They have a lot of holes.
That's something they could do. Of course, still rather have Deshaun Watson, but
everybody would.
Yeah,
but if you can get Juju Smith-Schuster, an offensive lineman and a running back or a defensive edge rusher in the draft, along with Zach Wilson, that's a big improvement to cumulatively to what the Jets have right now.
Could end up having a very successful.
And it could be the way that the new coaching regime wants to go, and that they want to make they want to make their statement in the draft and make sure that they have who they want personnel wise.
Right.
We'll see.
Fitzpatrick is an unrestricted free agent, by the way.
He'll be playing. I think he's played on 7 teams.
8 or 9 actually.
Has it been that many?
Yeah.
So what's one more?
Not as much as McCown that you said before.
Yeah.
I think he played. What's it like? 11 or 12,
half
right?
the league, I think.
Yeah.
It's like.
But again, that's the perfect guy to come in and fill the slot for the those first number of games that you want.
Sure. And he really wouldn't be adding another one. He'd just be repeating one that he was on before.
Yeah, because he was already on.
He was already on
the
Jets.
Right.
So, but we'll see what happens.
And he was pretty good when he was on the Jets.
They were a game away from making the playoffs when he was on the Jets.
He's pretty good on all the teams he plays with, especially in the beginning of the season. So
Right.
He's the perfect quarterback to go 7 games and then bring in the rookie reliever.
Well, exactly. So but he always goes. Everybody says he always goes at the beginning of the season. He's Fitzmagic, and at the end of the season, he's Fitztragic.
That's right.
But he gets tired. He's an old man.
Exactly.
Carrying that beard around.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight.
Your head down. He can't see the receivers.
Constantly trying to find his chin strap.
Trying to get it there myself, but it's not going to happen. So, in any event, Giants. Here's news for you, Harry. I know you're going to love this. PFF, Pro Football Focus. You've heard, right? Okay. They named Daniel Jones the Giants' most improved player in 2020. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to point that out to you.
Yeah.
And here's the stats that they used. His numbers. He threw for 2,943 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions over 14 games. He boosted his completion percentage from 61.9. Remember that 61.9. All the way up to 62.5. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 0.6 of a percentage.
Go back and let everybody again hear the staggering numbers of the Giants' most improved player when it comes to touchdowns and interceptions. Let's just hear that again.
11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
And how many? And how many yards?
On the plus side, though.
How many yards?
He's 57 yards shy of 3,000.
Okay. So under 3,000 yards.
But here's what Pro Football Focus does, though. Okay, let's call it as it is. They use the PFF grade. Okay, and that's a number that they designed.
Pure fucking fantasy.
The sneakers.
It's a number that they designed
to
isolate. To isolate the play of a quarterback from his supporting cast. So even though he improved from 61.9 to 62.5, he actually improved from 65.9 to 78.4, according to PFF. So there you go.
That sounds like we can't afford to have any kids be left behind anymore, so we need to fix these grades.
Translation, they made up their own stat.
Sounds like a marketing department for the New York Giants.
Yeah. Probably. But, here, just actual stats. Here we go. In 2019, he played 13 games. 2020, he played 14 games. His quarterback rating his first year in 2019 was 87.7. This past year was 80.4. So he went
very
down.
Good. 80, that's a B.
Okay, right. He had 4 less completions in 11 less attempts. So his completion percentage is a little bit better. 61.9 to 62.5.
And he didn't have to throw the ball as much because he was throwing it better. I'm going to put the spin on all of these.
He threw 84 yards less. His passing yards per game went down. He was at 232. Now he's at 210 this past year.
He was more efficient.
Right. And his yards per attempt were identical, 6.6.
Consistency.
Right, exactly. Now,
increased efficiency.
However, touchdowns to interceptions, 11 to 10, and touchdowns to interceptions his first year in one less game, 24 to 12. Okay, so and he was sacked 7 more times for about the same amount of yards lost.
Definitely improved.
So he made the most out of the opportunity, the less number of opportunities that he had.
So it makes absolutely no sense because his numbers were pretty much better all around his first year than his second year.
Yeah.
And Pro Football Focus has him improved.
Pro Football Focus
unless everybody else is that much worse.
Well, I think that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones was better, but everyone else was worse.
Exactly. Well, Daniel Jones wasn't better. He was actually worse, but everybody else was more worse. So he's the best.
Right. So therefore, by comparison, he was better.
What's the one rating that everybody uses to analyze quarterbacks?
The QBR.
Okay.
QBR.
So how many starting quarterbacks are there in the NFL?
32.
Okay. So Daniel Jones is number 20 in QBR. Okay. Guess who is number 1 and number 2?
Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson.
No. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Guess who is number 3?
Tom Brady.
Josh Allen. But then here's where everything becomes weird. I mean, Ryan Tannehill was number 4. Ryan Fitzpatrick was number 5.
Wow.
Drew Brees, the guy who we just said was the shell of himself, was number 6. Lamar Jackson.
Game he was.
Lamar Jackson was number 7. Russell Wilson was number 8. Tom Brady was number. Baker Mayfield was number. So I mean, it's a pretty good overall analysis. So when you look at it, Daniel Jones is he's right above a smidgen, 0.2% above Mitchell Trubisky.
So he's better than Mitchell Trubisky.
So here's what we could say.
There you go.
Daniel Jones was better than Mitchell Trubisky this year.
There you go. There you go. In a nutshell, there you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it.
I mean, he was better than Tua by this. He was better than Drew Lock.
So he was
better
than rookie quarterbacks.
Right. And he was better than Joe Burrow and Jared Goff and Ben Roethlisberger.
How about Bradford Darnold?
Bradford
Darnold.
Guess who is number 33 on this list of 33?
Sam Darnold.
Yes.
Sam Darnold.
His QBR was 40.1.
40.1 was Sam Bradford Donald's.
So if you could get,
he had a lot of
draft.
That number's misleading.
Exactly. Totally. If you could get
it's misleading because he had a lot
if you could get a Wi-Fi router and a third round draft pick for him.
I thought you just meant a third string. I thought
a third string. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The other two.
This reminds me of when I play the Tecmo Bowl and I play with the Jets. And after the first couple of games, you can't run. There's no sense in running because the computer will destroy you. Mm-hmm. So you look at they rank at the end of the season, and I'll be right up there. I'll be 3rd or 4th or 5th in passing, and pretty good in total offense. But then you look at run, and I'll be dead last. The Jets will be dead last with like 580 total yards.
Sure.
So this is kind of the way it goes. It's a bit of a mirror. He's not good.
Let's talk about not just the Giants. Everybody, salary cap looks like it's going to be reduced. It was $198.2 million in 2020. They're flirting with the idea it could be like $20 million less, like around
I don't care.
$180 million.
Who cares?
That right now that would give the Giants a $1.5 million cap space. That's it, just $1.5 million. So they'd have to make some interesting moves to be able to re-sign Leonard Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson. So.
Well, I mean, if there's anything that they should, it's going to be tough. But it's tough. I mean, this is part of why when you see, this is also part of what made Brady's contributions to the Bucs so good. Is that he convinced people to come back who were going to be major contributors to play for, let's face it, a little less money and to join a winning team.
Did you see what Mike Evans said after the game?
No.
He wants multiple rings, and he wants them to take some of his money if they need it to keep the team together.
I mean, this sounds familiar, right? I mean, you can say what you will about Tom Brady. This has been his formula, and he leads by example. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's rubbed off on those guys. Yeah, I mean, it's especially in the NFL. The talent is so diluted that you have to, it's why Kansas City's so good. They have just a plethora of talent, and when you have guys who are MVPs who are being talked about as the best overall player in the NFL coming in and becoming backup running backs,
right? Exactly.
Then that there's something there. That yes, they're buying into it, but it's also contagious.
Let's talk about that for 1 second. Just getting back to the Super Bowl, just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to say that about Bell anymore. So.
No, not so much.
But at
least the Jets got the. But but I know what you're saying. Yeah, you look at and those were semi-late season moves, and you went, oh my god, now they got the guy that was the offense for Pittsburgh,
Right.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Antonio Brown, and
sure,
it's crazy.
Super Bowl wise, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 teams that have never won a Super Bowl. 4 of them have never been to the Super Bowl, but 12 of them have never won a Super Bowl. There are 6 teams that have won one. There are 5 teams that have won 2. There are 3 teams that have won 3. There are 2 teams, the Packers and the Giants, that have won 4. There are 2 teams, the Cowboys and the 49ers, that have won 5. There are 2 teams, the Patriots and the Steelers. That have won 6. And Tom Brady has won 7. So that's the list that's sitting right here on this stat sheet that I have sitting here.
Well, okay, but how many?
Yeah, but
how many Super Bowl winning teams was Bill Belichick a part of? Was it only 6?
No, 8.
No,
8. So
Belichick won 6. Well,
he won 6 with the Pats and 2 with the Giants. So he was part of 8 Super Bowl wins.
He wasn't part of another one before that. No, you're right.
No. So yeah. So there you go. So Belichick technically has 1 more ring.
I mean, yeah, it's just I understand what you're saying.
I'm just reading.
Yeah,
the graphics
it's kind of it's a nice use of numbers, but
right, exactly. It's not apples to apples.
I just remember back in the day, Bart Starr being called a systems quarterback because of the coach he played for.
He was.
Yeah. And
I just love seeing you get riled up.
I'm just look. I'm a New York guy. This is a guy who played for the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
He's now down in Tampa Bay, another place.
You would feel differently if your team hadn't walloped them twice beaten them twice.
No, I wouldn't.
I think you would.
I would probably be even more animate about how good he was.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I made my mistake. I rooted for the Red Sox once, never again. Ungrateful bastards.
You rooted for the Red Sox when?
When they came back and beat the Yankees and were in their first World Series for whatever, and you had to root for them. Come on.
Oh, so you rooted for him against the Cardinals that year?
Yeah. I wasn't rooting for him against the Rockies. That didn't help.
It didn't help you. Oh yeah. All right. Well, do we want to? I'm not going to play the music, but do we want to recap Beaten by the Coin?
No, let's just bury the coin.
You won. Harry came in second. I came in third. Although I picked it. I had a great week last week.
You did.
You were the Super Bowl, right? The touchdown thing, the Knicks game.
You were great.
Little too late. And of course, I had no money on any of it. But I didn't win anything in our family box pool either.
No.
No.
Who won your yoga pants? Did John win your yoga pants?
John was the overall winner. So, he gets the yoga pants and a cup of coffee.
I defer. I'll take the coffee, but I'll defer the pants to the coin.
Well, the coffee is strained through the yoga pants.
That's right.
I will defer both to the coin.
Never mind. I won't go there. Yes. I was going to say it was strained through the yoga pants while you were wearing them.
Well, is there any other way to do it?
How?
No,
I don't want to know how.
You don't want to have it cold brewed. That's for him.
No.
Well, never mind. We'll leave that alone. All right. So
cup of strain.
there you go. So the big winner last week, Pete.
Hazelnut
Kudos
coffee.
to Pete. You got 3 out of 4 correct. So.
Hazelnut yoga blend.
That could sell, actually.
No, it can't.
I can see bags of that selling at Starbucks.
Not if anybody knew.
I'll be marketing them correctly. I mean, nice big cup with a bag of coffee in it and a pair of yoga pants wrapped up, and that's the gift, the seasonal gift.
It's pungent with overtones.
If giving coffee isn't enough, then give yoga pants and
yoga
a nice
pants along with
commemorative mug along with it.
Hazelnut yoga blend.
It's the perfect gift for that guy at the office who always takes the last cup of coffee and never makes more, or it's a gift you give your enemies.
That's it. Hazelnut yoga blend.
Absolutely.
From Long Island, New York, to you. Hazelnut yoga blend.
Hazelnut yoga blend.
Pete's hazelnut yoga blend.
Hazelnut yoga blend.
Pete's hazy nut yoga blend.
hazy nuts yoga blend.
That's good stuff.
For when your downward facing dog needs a little bit of help. Pete's hazy nut yoga blend.
On that note, why don't we get to our top 10?
Top 10.
Let's do it. Yay.
Should we do that?
Sure, why not?
Why not? This week is going to be the last week. We said last week we were going to do the last NFL
We
top
lied.
10 list, but we lied. We're going to do one more tonight. And this week is top 10 individual performances in Super Bowl history. And we're going to kick it off with Mr. Radio Pete. He's going to kick us off with number 10. Why don't you give us number 10, Pete?
Well, I don't. This list, we actually don't have any Cowboys
No, we don't.
to talk about. So much as I would have liked to see Prime in the list, but he never really had a great Super Bowl performance. But one guy that I know you guys will love and do love, and deservedly so, I had him pretty high on my list as well, is Eli Manning, the quarterback of the New York Giants. And this was Super Bowl 42 against, I forget which team it was against. It was the team that never lost a game until they finally lost the game. And let's see, what was he? 19 for 34, 255 yards, a couple of touchdowns. One INT was Eli Manning in this game against the Pats, but he was the man. And if there was ever a game that he played that cemented his reputation for toughness and guts, I don't know what that game was. This was certainly the one that stands out amongst all of it, and he had a number of performances along those lines. But this was the one that stands out and made the Dolphins very happy to boot. So congratulations, Eli. You're number 10 on your jersey and on our list.
And number 10 in your number 10 on the list, number 1 in your
Is it
number 1 in your heart, really?
I think he's number 1 in his own.
This is true. So, all right. I will take number 9. There we go. Number 9 is going to be Mr. Joe Montana. And Joe Montana I will tell you right now, Joe Montana might appear again in this list, but he's in it on this one in the number 9 spot for Super Bowl.
He's Hannah Montana's dad, right?
He's Hannah Montana's dad, yes. Super Bowl 19 Joe Montana. Super Bowl 19 Joe Montana. They beat the Dolphins in that game, did they not? Yeah, they did. So
yes, you could see a dolphin right there. It's Flipper.
He completed 24 of 35 passes for breaking the Super Bowl record of 318 yards set by Terry Bradshaw in Super Bowl 12. But he rushed for 59 yards on 5 tries too. Another record for a quarterback at the time, anyway. So he's Joe Montana, just amazing quarterback in Super Bowls, and that wasn't Super Bowl 19 was not forsaken on that respect. So there you go, number 9, Joe Montana, Super Bowl 19. Harry, bring us to number 8.
Number 8 is Mr. Lynn Swann in Super Bowl 10. While he only had, I believe, 4 receptions for, let's see here. I'm trying to find my statistics here. Pardon me. I think he had 4 receptions for 100 and something yards and 1 touchdown. But they were all highlight reel catches. And it was just one of those classic games.
That's one of them right there.
Yeah, between the Steelers and Dallas, which just, at least in my childhood, just seemed to be the 2 teams that were dominating the NFL in that time. But this was part of the Steelers runs where one of the 4 Super Bowls that he won, he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. And just one of the prettiest receivers you'll ever watch. Run a route, catch a ball, and certainly a performance for the memory books.
Sure. Absolutely. Agree with that one. All right. Number 8, Lynn Swann. Pete, bring us to number 7, please.
Certainly. I think that game was on our list of greatest Super Bowls too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great Super Bowl.
That was a great Super Bowl. Number 7 on our list, near and dear to my heart. I don't know. Being a Jets fan, it was tough to be a Raiders fan, but kind of there was a time when everybody was a Raiders fan. You couldn't sort of help it.
Sure.
And that is Marcus Allen and his performance in Super Bowl 18.
18, yes.
And that was a great one against the hated Redskins, I guess it was.
Redskins, yeah.
Yeah, 191 yards on 20 carries. And he had that great third quarter run where he went left and was stopped, reversed his field, which means he turned around and ran the other way and went 74 yards for a touchdown. And that was, again, that was kind of sealing the deal. And it was just a great year if you were a Raiders fan or someone who hated Washington. And a quick little note about Marcus Allen, who I always felt was well known and respected, but somehow still somewhat underrated player. As far as I know, the only guy to have won the Heisman, NCAA championship, a Super Bowl, and be named NFL MVP and Super Bowl MVP. Don't think there's anyone else who's done all of those things.
I don't think there's anybody else who's done all of that. No. Definitely.
Yeah. Marcus Allen, number 7 on our list. That was a great. I remember watching that Super Bowl. I was up in Ithaca, New York, and me and my college roommates and our RA lived a couple doors down, and he was a Washington fan. And every time the Raiders would score, we would march past his room and give him the old silver and black sign. So that was a fun time. I think we were drinking some beer that day too.
Probably. Why not?
The food was probably not so good.
Yeah. Not as good as it has been recently.
No, we had some wings, and I think we probably had like a Pudgy's sheet pizza, and that was the deal. That's all it took.
That's all it took. That was it.
A couple of cases, and we were.
You didn't need it. You just a slice or two each, and a couple cases.
Yeah. But that was a fun day.
There you go. Number 7, Marcus Allen. I'll take number 6. Number 6 is Mr. Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner. He was in 3 Super Bowls. This was for his first one, Super Bowl 34. He was also in Super Bowl 36, which he lost to Tom Brady. And he was in Super Bowl 43, which he lost to Ben Roethlisberger. But in any event, at this time, before, I should say, let's go back 4 years. Before Tom Brady and Nick Foles set some records. Tom Brady set 2 records. Set one and then set another one a year later. And then Nick Foles in there in the middle. In fact, the same year that Tom Brady set the one record for passing yards. Kurt Warner actually had 3. The 3 Super Bowls. He had the most passing yards, the second most passing yards, and the third most passing yards. And the most were in the Super Bowl 34. They won the Super Bowl over the Titans 23-16, but he threw for 414 yards, along with 2 touchdowns. Just 2 seasons after he'd been playing in the Arena Football League. So that was a pretty big feat at that time for Kurt Warner. But yeah, 2 years later, he threw for the second most passing yards. And then when he was in Arizona, when they played against the Steelers in Super Bowl 43, he threw for the third most passing yards. Then, of course, obviously, those records got shattered by Mr. Brady 2 years in a row. So, but anyway, that's our number 6 right there, Mr. Kurt Warner. All right, Harry, why don't you bring us to number 5?
Number 5 is the man who finally gave John Elway a Super Bowl win. That's right, Terrell Davis. Obviously, the incredible year, and he capped it off with one of the best Super Bowl performances of all time. He had 30 carries, 157 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which is a record he shares with 5 other people. Well, 4 other people, but because Jerry Rice has done that twice. But yeah, Terrell Davis. It was just, he had, I think, 2 of the best back-to-back years I've ever seen by a running back, and he was a big reason why the Broncos won both of those Super Bowls. And he's just one of those guys who I just wish he was able to stay healthy, because he could have been on that list of the best running backs of all time. He was that good. He was a standout star, and living here in Denver at the time and watching him play, he was a difference maker on that team. And they just gave him the ball, got out of the way, and he put in one for the record books. So Terrell Davis, old TD,
number 5 for Super Bowl 32. There you go. Radio Pete, bring us to number 4, please.
Number 4, Terrell Davis, a great system running back.
Great system running back.
That's what they said about Shanahan. You can plug any running back in there, but Davis was different. He was different than those guys that came after him. I mean, they did have success too, but he was not in any way a system running back.
No.
All right, number 4 is Monty. That's what I call him, otherwise known as Joe Montana.
To his friends, he's known as Monty.
Yeah. Well, when me and Monty and Prime hang out, that's what we call him.
That's right.
And
Does Jerry come around every now and then too, or it's just you and Monty?
To all the people that have that he has a restraining order against, he's known as Monty.
Yeah. So that was Joe Montana, of course, of the multiple champion San Francisco 49ers. Is this still the most lopsided game ever?
Yes.
Yeah. Still the most lopsided Super Bowl. Sorry to do this to you, Harry, but 55-10 over the Denver Broncos, who were.
That's fine.
Harry wasn't in Denver yet by that point.
I'm not really a Broncos fan, really, either. But
yeah. Well, listen, the good thing, because certainly in this period of this was rough for them. The Broncos were trying not to lose their 4th straight Super Bowl. Not 4th straight, but be the second team to lose their 4th Super Bowl and tie the Minnesota Vikings, as well as losing 3 Super Bowls in, I think, 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
But look at those classic Broncos uniforms. They're just
those were great uniforms.
So
this was it was pretty ugly.
Montana, that was a machine.
Montana was an absolute machine. 22 of 29, 297 yards, 5 touchdowns, 75.9% completion percentage, which I believe is still second highest, right? Actually, what did Tom Brady have in this past Super Bowl? Anyway, second, I think.
Rushing yards?
No, completion percentage.
Yeah.
Because 75.9 is, I believe, second to Phil Simms in the Super Bowl. So quite a game for Mr. Montana. And I believe it was his 3rd MVP in his 4th Super Bowl. So all around a pretty good day for him.
Brady's was 125.8 on Sunday.
His quarterback rating?
His quarterback rating, yeah.
No, I think he was talking about completion rating.
Yeah, completion percentage.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Completion percentage was don't have it on this. Oh, no, don't have it on this one. Sorry. I have to go to another sheet if you really.
Well, 75.9 is still pretty good.
There you go. I'm sure it is.
3 out of every 4 passes you throw in the Super Bowl is complete. So, I mean, he had some pretty nice targets too. So, that was a heck of a performance for.
He's a system quarterback.
It's a great system, great results.
Well, I mean, this was George Seifert's first Super Bowl win as coach. He was a system,
which could also have been
assistant coach too.
Bill Walsh's last Super Bowl.
Bill Walsh's last. Yeah.
Although Seifert, I think we've said before, he didn't exactly Barry Switzer it. He had a little bit more. He was part of the reason that they were as good as they were.
Sure. Yeah. Bill Walsh just turned over the reins. Bill Walsh wasn't fired.
Right.
And like Jimmy Johnson was.
Yeah, Seifert was part of the architect of those teams.
Sure.
He wasn't just a guy who came in and went, "Yeah, just do what you did last year."
He was the heir apparent, and Bill Walsh was still there. He was still, part of the organization. So, but it was talk about a dynasty. This definitely was one.
Yeah.
And so much so that 5 years apart, 2 different Super Bowls. Our top 10 list, Joe Montana makes 2 of them. So.
Yeah.
There you go. Number 4, Joe Montana, Super Bowl 24. I'll take number 3. And that's going to be Mr. Phil Simms with his Super Bowl 21 performance. Let's put his picture up there. There you go. He had a completion percentage of 88%. That is still a Super Bowl record. He went 22 of 25 for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. He actually also rushed 25 yards on 3 carries too. For everybody,
just his all-time.
I think that's more rushing yards than he had combined for all the rest of the years he played. But yeah, Phil Simms was not known as a mobile quarterback by any means.
Brady's completion percentage was 72, almost 73%.
So it was a little shy of Montana's in that, but yeah, to 88%. That is still a for Phil Simms there. that is still a Super Bowl record, and that was in the 1986 season in January of 1987. So it's been held for a while now, 34 years.
Yeah, Breeze is actually the closest to 82.1%.
There you go. And also on that note, his quarterback rating, Phil Simms' quarterback rating for that Super Bowl was 150.9. That is still a Super Bowl record as well. It's the highest for any player in the Super Bowl. And the the next one back is, you would imagine, Joe Montana in Super Bowl 24. He had a 147.6. So it came close. But yeah, Tom Brady, closest Tom Brady ever got what passer rating would be this year. 125.8 was his QBR. So there you go. But yeah, Phil Simms they lit it up that year. It was such a strong defense, and the offense did what they could. I mean, between Phil Simms, throwing
the offense had their best game of the year.
Offense had their best game of the year.
And they exploded in the second half.
It was crazy. Yeah, 39-20 was the final score. It just was an amazing game. So there you go.
Here's my question to you guys: when you talk about Hostetler,
sure,
and that Super Bowl year, and I've heard you both say if Simms hadn't gotten hurt, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And yet he put in that, like, what? Why do you say that when you look at that performance?
Well, they were 5 years apart?
4
years apart. Mm-hmm. Different offense. They didn't have the weapons. They had to rely even more so on their defense in 90-91 than they did in 86. And
what did Hostetler bring that
I'll tell you what
Mobility.
brought? Mobility
okay.
and the ability to make up for some deficiencies in their offensive line. The 90 offensive line was nowhere near the 86 offensive line. And they were dealing with some injuries, and
Bruce Smith would have had Phil Simms on his ass. The 20 times more than
in Simms' defense. Okay. The other thing the Giants did with Hostetler is their run to pass ratio went the opposite way. So they were really reliant on the run, and Hostetler threw when he needed to. Although, Hostetler, even in the Super Bowl, he had pretty good numbers.
Right. Really good
numbers. He wasn't pretty, but and the other part of it is that there was just some signs that the Giants weren't really clicking with Simms under center. It had gotten to the point where he was kind of, I think, on his last leg. And so Hostetler
did because he broke his leg in the
Hostetler just sort of gave them, I think, the shot in the arm to be able to play in a much more scrappier way. And number two, I think it sort of was the thing that made the defense stand up and go, you know what? We have to win this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah.
I know that they were years apart, but I always wondered what it was that made
Phil Simms,
team
during the season, Phil Simms was playing better in 90 than he played in 86. And they were 10-0 at one point.
Right. I know, but then it seemed to go a little sideways.
Yeah, they lost 2 in a row. They lost to, I believe, Minnesota in week 11, and then they lost to San Francisco in week 12.
Okay.
It went a little sideways, but yeah, definitely. It was the mobility factor.
They lost their starting running back. I mean, there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
I always wondered about that.
But yeah. So there you go. Well, anyway, number 3 is Mr. Phil Simms, Super Bowl 21. All right, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz, please bring us to number 2.
Number 2, an incredible performance by none other than Mr. Steve Young, who I think would be much higher on everybody's greatest quarterbacks of all time, greatest, players of all time list had he not sort of literally been in Joe Montana's shadow. But he had a hell of a game. He went 24-36 for 325 yards and 6 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 134.8 and also ran for 49 yards. So He had a hell of a game. He was one of those guys who, arguably you could say he was a prettier quarterback to watch than Montana. He was just that good. And boy, what I don't think there's ever been, with the exception of maybe Favre to Rodgers, I don't think there's ever been a handoff from one quarterback to the other that's been better in NFL history. It's just unbelievable.
That was crazy. And he was my number one. This game was his play in this Super Bowl 29 was amazing. Would have made Joe Montana jealous.
Well, and look, Jerry Rice had a hell of a game. He had 10 receptions for 100, almost 149 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
They definitely spread the ball around well, and they just passed the ball. They didn't really have a ton of rushing yards. They threw the ball and obviously dominated the game.
There you go.
Yeah, and Steve Young. I mean, if you look at he actually, I think we talked about this before. He ended up having more touchdown connections with Jerry Rice and Joe Montana.
Right. People forget about. I think Young only won one Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's
Steve Young only won one Super Bowl.
Yeah. So that's really the big hit. I mean, I think if he had won even one more, then I think he would have been. There would have been a different conversation. But especially during the regular season, they put up some of the best numbers post Montana with Rice and
right. And also, he lost how many years that he was on the bench?
Right, quite a bit.
So he, what was it, like 4.5 years or something? Whatever it was. Those could have been productive years, and his numbers would have been.
I mean, the reason why
even better than they were.
The reason why Steve Young did so well in this game is because Deion Sanders was on the 49ers at the time. So that was really the big reason.
That's Prime always says that's one of his fondest memories.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd bring Prime into the discussion.
You bring Prime into the equation. Yeah, he actually sat for the 87, 88, 89, and the 90 season. Yeah. Because he came into the game, obviously, when he first entered was when Leonard Marshall put Joe Montana on his ass with that vicious hit in the NFC Championship game in 1990. And then,
but of course,
it became what?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, then it became Steve Young's team.
Right, but if Steve had been playing all that time, then we wouldn't have had some of that Montana magic too. So.
Absolutely. Right. And then I mean, give it to your Cowboys. I mean, Steve Young was there every year. I mean, it was the NFC Championship game every year was the Cowboys and the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
Just the Cowboys won 3 of them, and the 49ers only won 1. So, that was the only year this particular Super Bowl was the only time in 4 years that the Cowboys didn't go to the Super Bowl or win it, for that matter.
They had a pretty good quarterback too. Also gets a little bit of a shirt changed, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
All right, talk about a system guy, boy.
System.
Aikman.
Steve Young was a system quarterback.
The night of the system quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a system quarterback. He could just run.
Right.
That's what made him a little different.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. All right, and that'll be number 2, Steve Young, Super Bowl 29. Radio Pete, bring us to number 1, please.
Number 1, the aforementioned Jerry Rice. Number 1 in a lot of ways, kind of considered the greatest receiver ever, and blah, 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 blah. Super Bowl 23. Rice had a pretty good day against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
11 catches, 215 yards, only 1 touchdown. And rushed for 5 yards as well, but was obviously instrumental in the game. Had a big first down catch while the 49ers were going on their game-winning 92-yard drive. So, and I mean, he's Jerry Rice, and I think he was my number 1, although I don't think either of you guys had him the number 1 slot, but it was a heck of a performance, and certainly we've seen some good ones since then. And I think this game was also, I had pretty high on our greatest Super Bowls list. Certainly this is one of the most exciting games. And I think this was the John Candy game.
This was the John Candy game.
Yeah. So, Jerry Rice, not enough accolades as it is. He gets number 1 on our greatest Super Bowl performances.
I mean, come on, a systems receiver.
Yeah, he's a systems receiver, absolutely.
Well, listen, actually, he can only be as good as the guy throwing to him.
And maybe, I mean, it's hard to leave Brady out of this conversation, but, top 5 all time, as far as all time Super Bowl performances. I mean, how many did he win? 4, Rice, or 3?
Rice won.
I think he won 3. I think he wasn't with one. But anyway, I mean, he didn't have a bad game in Super Bowls. I mean, his Super Bowls games were pretty darn impressive.
No, the first 2 Super Bowls that the 49ers were in that they won when they beat Miami and Cincinnati the first time, Jerry Rice wasn't.
He won 3. He played in 4 because he played with the Raiders.
He played with the Raiders, yeah.
And he does hold the record for most points scored in Super Bowls with 48. So you could argue he's the best. I would argue he's second best all time player in the history of Super Bowls, but. He was unbelievable. I mean, he was the best of the best.
He was number 1 on our wide receivers list.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not. I don't think you can argue it.
No.
Yeah, and he came up. I heard some guys on ESPN. They were talking about baseball players, and just as sort of as an aside, they were saying Derek Jeter. They mentioned Derek Jeter, and you look at his regular season numbers, and you look at his playoff numbers, and they're virtually identical. Very, very similar. So that consistency, bringing having an A game and bringing that A game to the playoffs. Yeah,
I mean, Jerry Rice had 3 touchdowns twice in a Super Bowl. I mean, that's crazy.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And we all know,
and there's other people on that team, like Roger Craig and John Taylor and blah blah blah. The list goes on. It wasn't like he was their only target,
right? Yeah, but even though we all know how great he was, if you really just look at his career numbers, it still blows your mind. It still blows your mind. Yeah. No one could be that good.
Not at all. Well, there you go. Our number 1 individual performance in Super Bowl history, Jerry Rice for Super Bowl number 23. There you go. That's our list. It's our last.
This was a tough list.
This was a tough list. This definitely was.
Well, because you have all of those performances that are the Doug
Williams,
the Timmy Smiths, the Jeff Hostettlers,
Terry Bradshaw.
And Terry Bradshaw was on my list, pretty high up. I mean, there was
on all 3 of our lists, but he just missed points.
Right. You look at even Thurman Thomas in a losing effort. You look at some of the defensive guys, like Charles Haley or others. There's been a lot of great Super Bowl performances. And look, I mean, I had Brady on there too. I think his performance when they came back to beat the Falcons it wasn't in our top 10, but it's certainly, one for the history. But there's been a lot of great. I mean, Kurt Warner could have been on here 3 times, at least twice.
Yeah.
So it really takes a lot to stand out. And I think, when you're somebody like Phil Simms who has a game like he does, or Steve Young where he throws 6 touchdowns, and that's the differentiator.
Sure.
Right. But right.
The top 4 spots were the top
pretty much the
spots.
same.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't really a case where you could say, well, there's maybe 12 or 13 players that are going to go into the first 9, and then we've got like 8 guys that could be 10. There were a whole group of people.
John Riggins, go anywhere from. You got John Riggins,
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Doug Williams, you mentioned. I think above. I had him on my list actually. Timmy Smith was a great story. So there was just a whole and Warner. I mean, how do you not have Kurt Warner?
Right.
If it was an all quarterbacks list,
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been
Bradshaw.
A little easier, but not 100% easier.
Drew Brees. Drew Brees is, 82% completion rating.
And Bradshaw.
Staubach, Aikman. I mean, Emmitt Smith. It's just that
although he wasn't as good a quarterback as Aikman, but
Emmitt Smith. Well, I'm talking about just performances. He probably could have been, but yeah.
But yeah, there's like I said, there's a bunch of performances we could have put anywhere from, like the whole bottom half could have been completely different, and you could make, and they would all be, in my opinion, completely legitimate.
Yeah. And then there's just and there's always Nick Foles. I mean,
what
did he throw for 3 touchdowns and catch one?
Yeah,
Quarterbacks on the list.
internal
I mean,
debate about whether to put him on.
Eli's on the list, but you have to put that performance by Foles as one of those Cinderella stories.
Sure.
Again, I think he was probably in that next round of next 5 or 6 on our lists.
Yeah.
So there's and as it gets harder and harder. I mean, there's been how many Super Bowls now, so it gets harder and harder. I mean, Bart Starr in Super Bowl I could have been on this list. There's Joe Namath. His numbers weren't great, but I mean, that's one of those memorable performances.
He could have been on the list just for the guarantee. And then backing it up.
Len Dawson.
I had him on my list.
Larry Zonka.
And then took Namath off. Just his numbers just weren't good enough.
No.
Larry Zonka.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, Zonka was.
I mean, the one that was tough for me to not put on there was John Riggins, because when I think back to the Super Bowl performance, other than Terrell Davis and Marcus Allen, I just picture John Riggins carrying an entire team 5 yards at a time for 38 carries or whatever he had in that game. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the kind of performances that you remember. But yeah, good list.
Great list. So, all right.
Good way to end the 29-week-long football top 10.
There you go.
Yeah.
Next week we'll have a top 10, but it's going to be
listen,
a different sport.
If we really get in a bind, we can do top 10 football lists.
That's top 10 lists.
Which were our favorite top 10
I mean, number one's definitely football movies.
Absolutely. Oh, that's by far.
We held back. We had some restraint. We did not do top 10 long snappers of all time. We didn't do punters, and we didn't do outside linebacker coaches of all time.
Outside linebacker coaches.
Right, we didn't do assistant coaches.
We could have done best coordinators.
We could have done owners. We could have done best owners.
Could have done owners. Top 10 system quarterbacks.
Top 10 system quarterbacks. Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Next year, we got some new categories for next year. We got some
stuff for next year.
That's right.
So as far as this year goes, that should bring us to our segment this week of Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry, why don't you tell us who this week's Old Balls is?
This week's Old Balls is none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers' very own L.C. Greenwood. That's right, folks. L.C. Greenwood, who is kind of the unknown superstar of those very vaunted Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl championship teams. He was a defensive end. He was a 10th round pick in 1969 and played for the Steelers for 11 years. Part of the famous Steel Curtain, 6'6", 245 pounds. The reason why I did him this week is that he still, to this day, holds the record for the most sacks in a Super Bowl game. He had 4 sacks against Mr. Roger Staubach of the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Was it Super Bowl 10, right? Yeah. And he was a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, NFL All-70s team, and Pittsburgh Steelers all-time team. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. And he passed away a number of years back. But when he was asked about it, he said that as long as Mean Joe Green was in the Football Hall of Fame, then he felt like he represented the entire defense. He went on to act a little bit. They used to call him Hollywood Bags because of his desire to become an actor from retiring from football. But, he just never got in. And he was named to the Super Bowl Silver Anniversary team. And in 2007 was named to the Steelers all-time team. He died 2013, 67 years old. It's a relatively young man, but L.C. Greenwood, the pride of Canton, Mississippi, and I think he actually lived in Mississippi when he died. He was amazing. I mean, that we talk a lot about those Steelers teams, but I can't imagine there being a better defensive squad in the history of football.
That was crazy.
They were that good. And some people might say the 85 Bears. Some people might say the 86 Giants. There's certainly some people who'd say the recent Broncos team with Von Miller who won. But these guys were dominant against teams that had a lot of talent on the opponent's side. And he was great. 4 sacks against a great Dallas team. In one Super Bowl. That's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. Crazy impressive. So
he was a systems defensive end.
there you go. LC Greenwood, folks, this week's Old Balls.
I'm just happy to have something I said be a running joke.
There you go.
Jogging.
A jogging joke.
A trotting joke.
Trotting joke. You got to love that. Also make mention of the fact before we wrap up football for the evening, Marty Schottenheimer passed away.
Yeah.
Well,
sad. You know,
yeah.
77. Yeah. Yeah, he was. He was a Giants defensive line coach for 2 years, and then became defensive coordinator for a year before he went on to be head coach. And that was back in the John McVay days and Bill Arnsberger days. He was actually Harry Carson's first defensive coordinator with the Giants.
21 years he was in the league, I believe.
Well, yeah.
He won 200 regular season games.
Yeah, what was he? He was 260 something or 20 something. I heard the number today.
Yeah, he had a good record.
Impressive.
He was 200 and 126 and 1.
126. Yeah, that's
Browns, Chiefs, Redskins, and Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
And got the short shrift in Washington. He was only there for 1 year and
one play at a time.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was his mantra.
Yep.
Yeah. He was one of those coaches who just didn't have luck on his side.
Nope.
But nonetheless, I mean, he definitely goes up there with some of the best coaches of all time. That's for sure.
That is for sure. There you go. Well, rest in peace, Mr. Schottenheimer.
Yes, indeed.
There you go. All right. That should bring us to before 2 hours, we're getting to Major League Baseball. Look at that.
Holy cow.
Hopefully there's not much here.
What's come over us?
What has come over us?
We're gonna get this down to a 24-minute podcast.
Well, here's good news. Here's good news for us Mets fans. Albert Almora Jr.
Albert Almora Jr. signed.
Free agent center fielder. Yeah. Defensive late replacement. Not much of a hitter.
He's good. They're going to put. You know what? Jackie Bradley Jr. is still in play. They have not.
No, they're going to platoon him with Nimmo.
They're going to platoon him with Nimmo. And
1 year, $1.25 million.
Yep.
Yeah, look, he spent 5 years with the Cubs. Last time he played,
he's only 26.
Full season was 130 games, and he hit 236 with 12 home runs and 32 RBIs. So there you go.
He hit 167 with 1 RBI last year.
Yeah, in 28 games. So
I mean, I just wish I could do that and get $1.25 million.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I'll take 1.2. I'll take 1.24.
There you go.
I'll do it for
Save him some money.
Yeah, he's there for the defense, and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So, well, there you go. And they also signed Jonathan Villar too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
this is your deep dive with Mets. You don't know.
There you go. And they signed him to a utility role. I'm sure he'll see a little time at third base.
Yeah.
He also signed a contract with Con Ed Utility Department.
Yeah. They signed Almora, defensive replacement outfielder, and they signed Villar, utility infielder.
Right.
Utility.
Look, they're building up their depth, right? They're building up the bench.
That's right.
That's what they're doing. So
really what it's
Jackie
all about.
Bradley Jr. is still in play, and there is talk, and it's been talked for the last several days now. They're interested in bringing in Justin Turner. They want a short deal, though.
They don't have enough COVID.
Right.
So they're going to get Turner.
But, and it's going to be the same situation.
I mean, what
the Mets before his prime and after his prime, right?
Justin Turner's asking for a lot.
Yeah, he is.
And that's why I don't think anybody signed him yet.
Yeah.
So how much is he worth?
Yeah.
It's a question. I mean, he has been a pretty good performer in the postseason, but.
Well, here's a question about that, right? Now, they have J.D. Davis. J.D. Davis is a better infielder than he is an outfielder. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I know, when he's playing left field out there last year, he didn't look comfortable. But he has a decent glove in the infield, and obviously he has a great bat. So there's third base is not a need, and they're looking at spending money that they don't need to bring Justin Turner. I think J.D. Davis is a better third baseman at this point than maybe the bat is a little bit better, but that's negligible because J.D. Davis's bat is pretty decent. So why why, the only thing I could think of is that J.D. Davis is a Brody boy, and Sandy doesn't want any Brody boys left.
Is Turner just saying, okay, is this going to be another instance where they use it as leverage just so the Dodgers know where they stand and they re-sign him?
Probably. He probably talked to Bauer and said, hey, you can do it this way. Listen to this, and you can. But
also with what's his name deciding not to play in Milwaukee, is the Brewers a place where he might wind up? I don't know.
Right.
It's
you never know. But they're also in talks with not talks. There's been discussions about being interested in Jake Arrieta too, and James Paxton for that matter. So obviously they're still looking maybe for a little more pitching depth. But I think it's just a big fallout from everything that happened last week with Bauer. And Sandy Alderson actually said the other day that he's never been in negotiations that far that they didn't sign somebody, And then of course Bauer issued that 75-page apology the other day. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Actually apologizing to Mets fans. And he, in a nutshell, to paraphrase it and sum it up, he basically said that he wasn't in charge of his social media that day. He was concentrating on the deal and deciding where he wanted to go. And some of his people that were running his social media that day jumped the gun with a lot of stuff. And he apologizes if it looked like he was baiting the Mets and trolling them and everything else. It wasn't him. And a couple of comments I saw back right away, which were pretty funny, were, okay, so in 9 years, this is the first time you ever logged off of social media. That one day. That day is the only time you weren't on, right?
Yeah.
And then the next guy says, oh, wait a minute. If you weren't on and it was your people that were handling you in your social media on that day, how do we know that it's not your people that are handling you now posting this up? So, but who cares? Who cares? He used the Mets.
He
got what he wanted.
He got what he wanted, and that whole apology was he's just covering his ass because he's got opt-outs for the first 2 years.
CYA.
If things don't work out there, then he might come back to the Mets after next season.
If all of a sudden the Dodgers are tanking, I know this is not going to happen, obviously, but all of a sudden the Dodgers are tanking and the Mets are the best thing since sliced bread. Obviously, he's going to want to, explore those options. So,
and he's not going to be there the third year at $17 million after making 45 and 40.
Sure.
So he wants to cover his ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good for him.
And,
that's what he should do.
Right now, the
who do you want out of those two? Let me ask for the Mets guys. Do you want Paxton or do you want Arrieta? I mean, obviously
neither. I want Odorizzi.
Of course.
Yeah, I'd rather have Odorizzi, but I mean Arrieta.
Odorizzi when it's time, when it's getting humid and it's getting frizzy. Odorizzi.
When you can't stand the smell anymore, Odorizzi,
just a little under each pit, and you're good for the week.
You're good to go.
Paxton's coming off surgery, right?
Yeah.
Or just a lousy year?
A little of both, I think.
Yeah.
They
Arrieta
gave him surgery because he had a lousy year.
Arrieta was really, really good for a few years, but it's been a few years.
That was 12 years ago, wasn't he?
Was it 12? No, it wasn't that many.
Hey, look, from what I'm reading, and I don't delve into this as much as you guys do, it sounds like the Mets are more interested in Paxton than they are in Odorizzi.
Yeah, they are.
And it's probably just a matter of what they can get him for. And
it's money. It's money.
Probably Paxton is a better bet as far as
Paxton really dropped off last year. Yeah.
Yeah, but having a rebound year, Paxton's a better bet. I would think than Arrieta.
I don't think I think you're right.
Arrieta's got to return to the form he had 4 years ago.
Of those two, I would prefer Paxton. But I would prefer Odorizzi over all three of them. But
of course.
And if they are interested in Turner,
why the Yankees are not? The Yankees just baffle me with what they're doing with their pitching. I don't know. I guess you have to kind of trust them. I don't know.
Well, especially now because if the rumors are, the story is that they changed the baseball. Yeah. They loosened the innermost layer of cloth or whatever, so it's got less spring to it, and the home runs are going to go down. So
good.
Fine. I think we all agree it's good, but if you're a team that's built on guys that hit a lot of home runs, then you're gonna have to make some moves and bring in some guys who hit for a little bit more average and drive the gaps and do all those things. Like actually play baseball.
That's what that's called, right? Play baseball. Right?
Yeah.
I think the way the Yankees are looking at it is Kluber is their new Paxton.
Right.
I don't know.
That's probably the way they're looking at it.
Talon, or however the hell you say his name. I mean, I'm just not overwhelmed by what their starting lineup is like.
Well, the whatchamacallit, they just they dumped Ben Heller and picked up Darren O'Day.
Vast improvement
today. The Yankees have to. Herman has to come back in top form. Severino has to come back in top form, and obviously, maybe Garcia pops up. I don't know. We have our number one, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5 are up for grabs.
Exactly. Let's see who steps up and wants it.
And I think Tanaka is going to be a big loss. I really do.
Yeah, I would have to
because he hasn't been great. He's no Andy Pettit, but he's a consistent presence.
Yeah.
There's not you don't know what, and but we'll see.
What's going on with your boy Gardner? I mean, there hasn't been any offer. There hasn't been a deal. They haven't even negotiated anything yet.
I think this is all moving at a snail's pace because they're just waiting to see what. They're waiting for one person to make it to get signed, so
dictate
to dictate the rest of the dominoes falling. Look, I love Brett Gardner. Everybody does. He's a favorite in New York, but Brett, I don't want to see him. I would love to see him retire a Yankee,
right?
But it seems like the Yankees have decided to hold on to some other pieces, and do they really need Gardner?
You can't get rid of Gotti.
You can't get rid of Gotti.
Yeah, then he better.
The heart of the team.
Agree to play for 65K and some free cannolis.
Jumping back to the Mets really quick, the Picada projections. Did you see them?
No.
Came out the Picada projections.
What is that?
It's the projected win totals and percentages to win the divisions. Specifically speaking of the NL East, the Picada projections project the Mets to win the division with 95.5 games. Behind them
Kiss of death right here.
Behind them would be the Nationals with 85 games. And then in third place, they're projecting the Phillies with 83 wins. The Braves with 82.
No love for the Braves.
The Braves with 82 and the Marlins with 68. That's the Picada.
Well, MLB have the Yankees and the Mets getting in as wild card. So who knows?
Yeah,
I think
it's. I don't know. I'm not sure if that.
Some people.
Vegas
has
the Mets. Vegas has the Mets in second, and the Braves win in the division.
People are already picking the Blue Jays to win the American League.
All right. Well, enough about players and who's going where and who's not going where. Let's talk about the rules.
Yeah, let's.
Did they keep the good stuff and get rid of the bad stuff? I guess depending on how you feel
update me.
No,
I'm not aware.
The 7-inning doubleheader is going to stay.
Yep.
I hate that.
Which I hate. The runner on second to start extra innings is going to stay, which everyone hates, and no universal DH, which I'm happy about. But
so also bad.
But probably of those three.
0 for 3 in my book.
The universal DH is the one that more people like than any of them.
I would, if I had to take one of them, it's the universal DH. It's going to help the Mets this year with Pete Alonso on first base and Dom Smith. You can platoon them on first base and have the other one.
It helps most teams.
It helps.
It's going to help every team.
It's going to help every team. Absolutely.
Right.
So we're done with that aspect of strategy.
But that's gone.
That's gone.
That's out. But we still have 7-inning doubleheaders and a man
ridiculous.
on second to start extra innings.
So
Absolute horseshit.
Yeah.
Absolute horseshit.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
I
Are we
agree.
playing? Is this Little League? It's
Yeah.
a joke. I got it last year.
You get to hit off a tee in extra innings.
I got it last year. I didn't agree with it then, but all right.
There's no pitcher in extra innings now.
Extra innings, you hit off a tee. No. The 10th and the 11th inning, you throw it up and hit the ball.
Yeah.
After that, your arms get tired, so you hit off the tee.
Actually, you have to kick a field goal to win overtime.
No, the batting, the whoever throws batting practice.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's right. The net comes out. The net comes
out.
The Johnny bench batter up,
and you only swing it what you want to. It's like the home run derby, right? You don't just strike.
No
you don't get strike unless you swing. You just swing it when you want to.
Yeah, actually, what it is that there's a guy on second base, but you have to hit him while he's running the bases to win the game.
All right, so yeah, so that's. All right. So bad job, MLB.
Unbelievable.
As was
Complete and
expected.
utter horseshit.
Although
Stop trying to spice things up.
Rob Manfred, I'm sorry, has got to be the worst commissioner for baseball.
Yeah.
What's his name is rolling over in his grave.
Unbelievable.
He's pretty bad.
Unbelievable.
All right,
Yeah,
glad
I mean,
we got that. Glad we got that cleared up.
Just give,
Although I
give the job to
disagree,
Tory
I
and
disagree
be done
about
with
the
it.
I disagree about the DH. I don't want the universal. DH.
I don't want it either.
I'm
But of those
indifferent
three,
on
I'll
that.
go with that.
I'm indifferent on that. but
I'm
yeah.
indifferent. I'm more indifferent on it now than I was.
Is
a
a universal
years
DH mean that it's every team has the same player as a DH?
It's
He just has to fly around
steady.
in a leader.
Well, we
Yeah.
called it when we were kids. We're steady DH, right? Steady
There's
pitcher.
one guy in each
Yeah.
stadium.
That's right.
Who is
Universal.
the DH.
And he bats for both teams.
They're
Bats
all-
for
they're
both
up
teams,
in
and they
that
have
spot.
a runner. They
They're
have a
all
runner
named
for
La-
him.
They're all named Larry.
So what you're going to find is you're going to have teams that are going to get a bunch of really fast guys because
Right.
the DH is not going to run.
Actually, what they
Not
were
at all.
really, what they were
No,
really
the-
the
proposing is-
runner stands next to the plate. He hits the ball and
right,
the runner
like you
takes
used to,
off.
right, like you used
Right,
to do
yeah.
in the schoolyard, right? You had
Right.
a guy that had a hurt foot.
No.
When
You
he
don't
could hit the
start.
ball,
You don't start overtime with the guy on second base. There is now always a guy on second base.
But he doesn't move. He blocks you when
He
you're
can do
coming
whatever
in
he
second
wants.
base.
He can do whatever he wants.
Okay.
He can either
He can
run
run back
or
to
field
first.
the ball. Yeah,
He can go out and catch the ball in the
do whatever he
outfield.
wants.
He can eat a hot dog, whatever he wants to do. He's on second. It's his.
You have to jump over him like Donkey Kong to get around the bases, or
Well,
slide
here's
under
what
his
you-
legs.
Here's what you do. But each team makes a secret bid before the game. And whoever gives him the most money, he will help that team out. So
Team out, right, exactly.
you know, if the losing bidder is up, he might run back to first and get tagged out.
Right.
If the winning win bidder is at the plate, then he might get a single and he'll come home and score. So
Unbelievable with this. This is
It's-
absolute insanity.
in-game free agency. You want to talk about spicing up?
The good thing is that the person who starts at second base in extra
Trades.
innings
I'll
doesn't
give you-
have to be on the team.
I need another pitcher. I'll give you my DH.
Yeah.
Which they change uniforms on the mound. They take the
And they
jersey
did
off.
not specify that it has to be a human being.
Right,
So you
yeah.
might have some thoroughbreds on second base to start
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
innings.
I think Gus could have a second career,
There you
Gus
go.
and a jockey.
and Tony Danza for that matter.
That's right.
Gus and a jockey, Tony Jansen.
Every game starts with Tony Danza on second base.
Base. Every game. Unbelievable.
We have solved Major League Baseball.
Unbelievable. Mr. Manfred, give us a call. We'll take care of it for you.
That's right.
We'll write it down. You're good to go.
All right. Hey,
Oh.
Nets are beating up on the Pacers.
Yeah, let's switch it up. Let's get
But
to
it's still
some
early.
NBA.
It's only the end of the third quarter, so
It's this is true.
I guess we should talk about the Knicks and Derrick Rose because that's
I
a
think
bigger
we should.
story
I
than
think we should lead with that. Yeah, let's.
the Nets' woes against any team that's over
Derrick
500
Rose back on the Knicks
or under 500, I should say.
Harry, what did you know that before I texted it to you the other day?
No.
And what did you think when you?
No,
saw
I
it?
mean I did know it. Yeah. I like Derrick Rose. This is not a slam at him. I just thought the Knicks were done with this
Right.
signing players way past their prime.
He's Tibbs' boy, right?
Yeah. This is one of the dangers of bringing Thibodeau in, is that, look, I'd see it as a disrupting factor, and it's going to hurt the Knicks from being able to analyze the plethora of other players that they have, and it might preclude them from getting. The thought process is, all right, the Knicks are on the bubble of getting in the playoffs. Wouldn't it be a great thing if after all of these years, the Knicks get back in the playoffs, especially after the year that they had last year? Yes, absolutely right. But so you get the 8th spot, you lose 3 straight, in the first round. I don't think Derrick Rose is going to get the Knicks over the hump, and I actually think this is going to be something that doesn't necessarily help this team right now. If Derrick Rose was going to come in and sit on the bench and play 22 minutes, and it would allow Elfrid Payton to play and quickly to get some more minutes, then I'd understand that. But I don't think that's the case, and I don't necessarily think this helps the Knicks win another 10 games this year. I just
My question is that necessarily the reason, though, that they brought him in? Could they maybe have brought him in just to try and help some of these young guys, to give them some seasoning, to give them some experience, to give them a learning experience?
Is he that guy?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question, because I agree with you. I don't think this necessarily
if you brought in Chris Paul or Andre Iguodala or somebody like that, then yes. Okay.
Right. I agree. There are much better guys that could fill that role, but Derrick Rose might be. I mean, certainly he's experienced.
Derrick Rose is not a bad player anymore. He's one of those guys who could have been top 30 player of all time, but injuries have totally decimated him. He's an MVP in the league. Derrick Rose is at his peak was a great player, and he's still a very good player.
Sure,
but
he had the second most points behind Peyton the other night. Last night.
Right. So. And because he's going to have the ball in his hand. I mean, it's like anything, you know. He demands that, and how that works out.
Yeah, I think that's the danger, is that he has every possibility of disrupting what the good things that they have done so far. But I can't. It doesn't seem like they brought him in, and this is going to get us over the hump. Maybe they're. I felt when I saw the story, John, when you texted it, my first thought was, oh, they're going to bring him in to try and, give a little bit of seasoning to some of these young guys,
right?
At the risk of disrupting what they've done. But I guess they thought that's a risk that's worth taking. That was my first impression. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I mean, look, Austin Rivers didn't play.
Nope.
Kevin Knox didn't play. Gibson, who they brought in as this veteran presence, I don't think has played at all. Quickly's minutes, he played 21 minutes. Burks played 26. Rose came in, played 20 minutes, had 14 points. He was very efficient, shot 5 of 9. You expect that in his first game.
Mm-hmm.
But they still lost. And
but what have the Knicks done against?
Get blown out. They lost by 2 points. So
they lost by 2 points.
They were in the game. Yeah.
What have the Knicks done against Miami this season? How many times?
It's up and down. I think they beat them twice already. But yeah. The Knicks are 11
too.
Yeah. So, look, is this Carmelo Anthony going to the Blazers? No. I think Derrick Rose, he scored exactly what he's been averaging all year, 14 points. Yeah. He's efficient. I think he'll help right now. Is this a long-term something to build on? No. If he starts to creep into the starting lineup, I also think that his plus-minus and his ability to score is helped by him being in that second unit and playing against the second units.
Right, and if that's where he stays, I think it's fine. I think he can help with that second unit and playing.
Look, the Knicks' entire second unit were in the plus. Their entire starting unit was in the negative last night. So it does help. But
definitely helps. But again, like you said, Austin Rivers didn't play, Gibson didn't play, Knox didn't play.
I think Knox is the Knicks still need. Look, Derrick Rose is a good piece. If he doesn't upset their ability to sign somebody else, is Rose on a 1-year deal, or did they absorb his contract?
I believe they just took what contract he had.
So I think he's got another year on it. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'll be honest. So, maybe he's around again next year. The Knicks still need 1 or 2 more players, and they're not going to get a marquee top 10 player in the league. But if they could somehow get,
do you think you're
Victor Oladipo or somebody?
Oladipo,
yeah. I don't think this hurts that. I don't think it hurts it. I don't think it puts the Knicks in a numbers. I mean, the Knicks have room to move this, and they have players that they could move to make that work.
Right.
Will they do it? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Oladipo is. I think he's on the trade block, but who knows? The Rockets are doing pretty darn good right now.
This is true.
According to Spot Track, Rose signed a 2-year deal for $15 million with the Pistons.
Yeah,
and all of that is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So then he's around. He's not going anywhere.
No,
he'll be here next year.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit? Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, it depends on what they do with him and what they.
Oh no! Wait a minute. What season are we in? 2021, right?
I think this is the last year of his contract.
This is the second year. This is the second year.
So he's not definite for next year.
And it was basically split down the middle. And
that's okay.
7.6 million. Yeah.
Let's. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Let's shift gears
to
the net.
Listen, at least the Knicks didn't lose to those Pistons last night.
Yeah.
No. Look,
The way the Nets did.
By 11 points.
The Pistons are set up to be a pretty good team. Jerami Grant signing with the Pistons has been the death knell for the Nuggets this year. And he's doubled his numbers in a bigger role in Detroit. Detroit's sort of one of those teams too. They've spent a lot of money on aging veterans over the last year, and I think they're realizing it's not getting them anywhere, and they're trying to dump some of those contracts.
Right.
Well, they're 6-18.
Yeah,
which is only slightly worse than the Nets' record against sub 500 teams, which is a 7-11 this season.
7-11.
7-11 against sub 500 teams.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you that when you're out there not playing any defense, anybody can beat you.
Well, look, they're blowing out Indiana. They're up by 18.
18 points, yeah. 82,
in the fourth quarter, and it's the usual suspects here. Harris with 13, DeAndre Jordan with 12, Harden with 17, Irving with 24. Timothy Luwawu Cabarro with 2 points.
Say that fast 5 times.
I can't say it fast once. And Landry Shamet, about 20 minutes at this point. So, and Jeff Green about 15 and 2 points for him. Although he's plus 25.
Irving's got 24.
Irving's got 24. So look, the Nets have problems on defense.
That's an understatement.
The Harden trade did exactly what we all knew it was going to do. It destroyed their depth, and they also traded away 2 of their better defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with Dinwiddie getting hurt, that was a big hit. So now you have those big 3, and next to nothing. You have Joe Harris, and not a whole lot. You got Bruce Brown, plays a little bit of defense, and of course Durant can be an excellent defensive player when he wants to be. But once you get past those big 3, you got nothing. You got no defense.
Right.
Well, and they should be clobbering Indiana. I mean, Indiana.
They should have been clobbering the Pistons, though.
Yeah, exactly. But Indiana, since the trade, has not been. I mean, what are they? I don't know what they are. I mean, they beat an inconsistent Raptors team on a back-to-back after losing to them. They beat
they're
the Hornets.
500
Hornets. They're 500, but they're not going to be 500 by the end of the year because they're no longer. They lost. They're arguably their best player.
Yeah. Well, what I heard about the Nets today is since the Harden trade, their offensive efficiency went up by. I don't know I can't remember the numbers, and their defensive efficiency went down, and the net was plus 0.2, which is, I guess, right around where you'd see a 500 team, roughly, average for a 500 team.
Sure.
And that's right where they are. They're 14-12 going into tonight's game. So
basically what you're saying is that they really haven't moved the difference of, scoring versus,
they've upped their scoring.
They've upped their scoring and lowered their defense.
Right, and lowered their defense. The net result is roughly the same thing.
But what they do have is they can sell more tickets once they can get people back in.
They can sell more tickets, and look, they can score with anybody, but that's going to break down when you get to the playoffs and play a great defensive team. It's going to be harder. Right. And again, no depth, and losing Dinwiddie, and of course trading away LeVert.
14 and 12 right now. They should be 18. They should be 18 and 8 at least, if not better. 20 and 6.
Yeah.
They should be. It's ridiculous, but hey, we say it every week, right? We say it every time we talk about it. You have nobody there that is interested in the coaching staff that's interested in playing defense. So
yeah. Although I also wanted to bring this up because I keep forgetting to mention it. Karis LeVert, who I guess ended up with Cleveland, I think, in the trade.
I believe so.
Or wherever he went. Because of the physical that he underwent due to the trade, they found out he had a tumor in his back, a cancerous tumor in his back.
It's horrible.
Which was only discovered because of the extensive physical that he went through. He was not suffering any symptoms. He didn't have any pain. And this was the sort of thing that can easily spread into the organs and lymph nodes and other parts of the body. So, as the story goes, this trade literally may have saved his life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing. I heard the story last week, and I forgot to mention it last week. because they traded him, and Cleveland, or whoever it was he went, did this extensive physical, obviously, which is what happens. He got checked out in ways that he wouldn't normally get checked out with the Nets, and like I said, didn't have any pain or any symptoms or anything. So they discovered this cancerous tumor in his back, and I guess underwent surgery to remove it and stuff, but or treatment, I forget. But it could have turned into something really, really bad. Could have been a cancer that spread throughout multiple places of his body, and was discovered because he got traded. So fortuitous.
Yes,
fortuitous.
very fortuitous.
Oy.
I mean,
pretty amazing.
What are we, halfway through the NBA season now?
More or less.
Yeah.
Just about a couple games away from it.
I mean, who do you think? Who are I think the two not surprise teams, but the two teams that are most improved have to be the Sixers and the Jazz.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean,
your two leaders.
I mean, the Jazz are 20-5.
Yeah,
they lead the West.
Yeah, they lead the whole all of the NBA, and the Sixers. It seems like they're holding on. I mean, they're playing good basketball. I still think it's going to come down to. I still think it's going to come down to the Nets, Sixers, and Bucks.
Yeah,
and I give Milwaukee a little bit of an edge, just because I think there's a little bit more continuity on that team, and I think you can break down the Sixers in a playoff series. But
I don't know. Did the Bucks have enough defense to stop Embiid and Simmons?
I think stopping Simmons is not very hard. I think the key is to stop Embiid and make Simmons beat you. And when it comes down to a playoff game, Simmons does not have the shooting skills that's necessary to win a game and like that. I think you could say the same thing about the Bucks, which is why the Nets might have a legitimate shot at all this when it's all said and done. I still think the Raptors are going to put in a better performance, and I still think on certain nights the Celtics can beat any of those teams. But I think it comes down to the West, and I still think it's between the Lakers and the Clippers out west. But there's
the Lakers are only a game behind the Jazz too,
right? And the Jazz look good. The Suns are playing good basketball. The Nuggets are kind of floundering around 500, but there's still and look, I think the other team that's done phenomenal considering that this talent that they have are the Spurs.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of teams hovering around 500. And then
there's only a couple teams that are blowing it.
Nobody's really running away with anything, and so we'll see. I mean, the Pelicans are not dazzling anybody on a night-to-night basis. The Rockets haven't necessarily fallen off the face of the earth since losing Harden. Right. The Mavs aren't playing great basketball right now. I mean, we'll see. I still think who the favorites going into the season are still going to be the favorites at the end of the season.
Yeah. It looks. I mean, we'll see what Boston does. We're how many games is 70?
60.
60. Okay, so we're at 25-ish.
24, 25, 26. Everybody.
We're almost halfway.
Yeah, almost halfway.
And they are going to have an All-Star game.
Well, are they? Or is the league going to get? Is that a good idea or not?
It doesn't. The players don't seem to think it is.
No, the players don't. Everybody else canceled their All-Star game.
Right. Or maybe they'll do a virtual one with a video game now.
That's right.
Instead, so.
They should just have an old-timers game.
Shouldn't that be the standard the way NASCAR does? The NASCAR guys race the car. I think they should do that with the NBA. There's got to be a way to hook 5 PS5s together so that what I mean. Everyone could be themselves.
Every individual they can play themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could all be in one game. There must be a way to do that.
But then that would be certainly interesting. And then the guys that are skilled in electronic game playing versus actually playing basketball have
right. Yeah. Then you'll have let's see who would be a good then you'll have Timothy Luwawu Cabarro, goes for 45
Right.
for the Nets.
Yeah, more than that.
I think
More than that.
He
if
doesn't
they
play
could-
That's a
much
cakewalk.
actual basketball.
I think if they can pull it off, it would be. I think it would be good to see. But
I don't know. I just worry because they're going to be together and then they're going to go back to where they were.
Right.
how is
And
that? Really,
I mean, it's,
yeah, the potential for it being a disaster is there. You're absolutely right.
yeah. So why not just skip it?
I think they should skip it.
Yeah,
I mean, if it ends
I think they will.
If it ends up derailing
yeah, no, you're
the
right.
rest of the season
You're
or part
right.
of the season, it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it at all. What are they getting from it? You know,
Right.
so
Well, they get money.
yeah, but you're not.
The answer to all your
Certainly
questions
not
is
going to
money.
do Yeah, I know, but they're certainly not going to do the night before. They're not going to have the slam dunk competition, right? They're not going to do that.
No.
And it'll be the All-Star game. You know, it'll be some endorsements. There'll be whatever advertising money they get from it. But that's it. It's going to be that one hit.
Yeah,
And it's not as much as I
watered
think they
down.
make more money the night before than they do in the actual game. And they're not
Probably.
going to do that.
Probably.
So
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll play it by ear. But yeah, I agree with both of you. I don't think it should be. I don't think they should do it. And when it comes down to it, I don't think they're gonna. I think it'll be scrubbed. So there you go. We'll see how that all plays out. Quick NHL information. The Rangers game is final. The Bruins beat the Rangers. So now and Toronto and Montreal are the only other. Maple Leafs and Canadiens are the only other game playing right now. It's, in the third, Toronto's leading Montreal by 1, 3-2. I don't see much improvement, but the Rangers are now 4-5 and 4-5 and 3. Boston's running away with the East 9-1. And let's see how your Avalanche is playing out there. How they doing?
Avalanche. Who cares?
Well, one other note from the NBA is, I guess
11-7.
they're
7-3
gonna,
rather.
The Avalanche are predicted to win their division this year.
Yeah, Vegas is a game and a half in front of them.
go Golden Knights.
There you go.
I mean, this could be yet another Tampa Bay championship. I don't know.
It could be. You're absolutely right. It could be. I mean, Tampa is tied. They're 9-1 too. 9-1 and 1. As is Boston's 9-1 and 2. So
Boston looks good, and the Flyers aren't all that shabby either right now. I mean, they're only one win behind, although they have two more losses.
Maple Leafs have the most points. Maple Leafs have 21 points. They have the most points. So, but it's going to be interesting. This season is obviously much shorter as well. So we'll see how that all plays out.
So that should help the Dodgers.
That should help the Dodgers sweep the Stanley Cup.
I mean, you have to sort of pull for the Maple Leafs. I mean, talk about a franchise that's been waiting a long time.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Do we love the divisions being named, the corporate naming of the divisions?
I don't believe that.
I wonder how much does it cost to be the Mass Mutual Eastern Division of the NHL, or the Honda West Division,
The Honda West Division is great.
or the Scotia North, right? That's what got only the Canadian teams in it, right?
How many hockey
the
teams are in California now? Is it just 2? 3?
L.A.,
It's
San
3.
Jose, Anaheim.
Jesus. It's amazing, A, how many hockey teams there are, and B, where they are.
But yeah, it's all 7 Canadian teams are in the north. It's just it's just the Canadian teams in the north.
Yeah, I was just going to say one other thing about basketball is I guess the Knicks and the Nets are both going to have fans in the stands in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah. New York opened up strict guidelines, but 2 weeks they can put fans in the stands.
Yeah, so it's going to be 10% of capacity roughly. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
I think it's a mistake. But
One of the downsides of the Knicks being mediocre this year, as opposed to just completely horrible, is that the only way you're going to get rid of Dolan is by attendance going down dramatically. And obviously COVID did that. But you're still going to have all the same yahoos going to see the Knicks.
Well, that's just it. If you had to make a bet, would you bet it's going to be roughly 2,000 fans that could be at the Garden?
Yeah,
How many nights will they have 2,000 fans? Probably all of them.
Well, I mean, Spike's not happy with the Knicks right now, so I mean,
Spike. Ain't
That's
Yeah.
reason for some of those yahoos to go.
well,
Right?
no, I
going.
mean,
Some of them are going to see Spike. They're not going to watch the Knicks.
No,
my
but there'll
point
be people
being
that
is that
will go
he's the
because
most
he's not.
No, I don't think so. I think he's the most influential fan in New York
In New York,
Amongst certain communities. Yes.
amongst Knicks fans. I mean, he's the only person who would be able to lead a boycott of going to Madison Square Garden to force a change in ownership, and it's not going to happen. So, who knows? But yeah,
I think Dolan would be more apt to sell the Knicks if he didn't own the Rangers too.
right.
He owns the Rangers, and they do decent. And he's not losing money.
He's not losing money with either of them.
No matter what the Knicks do, the house is full every night.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's my point.
So they'll probably be the same. They'll probably have their 2,000.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And he's got the magic 8 ball, so like we heard in the beginning, so he can.
He's a
looking in
cancer.
that.
He's a cancer for basketball in New York. The fact that we're talking about the Brooklyn Nets more than the New York Knicks is just
It's a shame, isn't it?
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really sucks.
Well, but that's only because they're players. It's only because they have three of the top caliber players on the team.
Well, and the reason why they have top caliber players and that went there and not to the Knicks is because of the ownership for the Knicks.
Exactly. I mean, you think back 2 years ago, right? I mean, it was almost everybody's mind was saying, "Oh, Durant and Irving are coming to the Knicks."
Right.
Coming to the Knicks. And the 11th hour, boom, they're in Brooklyn.
I don't think anybody ever. I mean, Kyrie would have. I mean, thank God we didn't get Kyrie. Although Kyrie's a great player, I don't think you build it. He's a piece of a puzzle, and he's well fit with Harden and Durant next to him. But he's not. You don't build an entire team around him.
Right.
And Durant knew where he was going the whole time. There wasn't a chance in hell Durant was coming to the Knicks.
Right.
So.
Sorry,
Stephen A.
Sorry, Stephen A. So.
Well, it's too bad because it's, I mean, you think about historically the top franchises in the NBA, and of course you think about the Celtics and you think about the Lakers and think about the Bulls, but the Knicks are right there.
Sure.
And it's been a long time since they've won a championship. And it's going to be a long time coming before they're even close to accomplishing that again. And
it's almost as long a drought as the Jets have.
And it seems like they've obviously been upstaged in their own city as far as who the number one team is. Now, that's fine. I'm not wishing ill on the Nets. I think that's great. It's just that it should never be that way. It should never be that way.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah. And I think the greatest danger with that is that as the longer it goes on, you've got young players who don't look at New York as a marquee destination.
Exactly. We're a generation removed now from the Garden and the Knicks being, when was the last time the Garden was part of a continued playoff story? It hasn't.
Right.
Hasn't been that way for an entire generation now.
Yeah.
Right. And even, the lure of Manhattan is
you got to
not
go back
something
well over 20 years.
Well, especially now.
Doesn't hold that same kind of sway for these young players. They're like, New York, whatever, but Brooklyn is the place to be, right? It's,
right.
It's been gentrified and
I mean, how many of them live in Brooklyn? They probably live in Manhattan or live in Westchester. And
I don't know, but
I don't think Durant picked Brooklyn over Manhattan because he wanted. They have more kombucha bars. I think he picked it. Brooklyn has certainly raised the game. Parts of Brooklyn are more expensive than Manhattan, but
that doesn't matter to him. He's got a lot of money. But my point is, in Brooklyn, you get the best, and that you get a more progressive team without a jackass owner.
It's about the ownership,
right. But you still get all the benefits of Manhattan. It's right across the river,
exactly.
So you still get all whatever of the nightlife and the beauty and the majesty and the reputation of the city is all right there. You just don't have to live there if you don't want to.
Right.
Exactly.
But I mean, the allure of New York for basketball should never have been dimmed. I mean, it has. It has. I don't think it needs to. It has. And I mean, it can change again. But if your biggest move in the offseason is getting a 75-year-old Derrick Rose to come back. That's,
Did he turn
not
75
great.
yet?
74. 74.
Yeah, next year, 75.
June birthday.
He's an old 74.
He turned 75 in the playoffs.
That's right.
During the playoffs.
Again, I like Derrick Rose. This is not what makes, this isn't exciting.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a baffling move.
Yeah, it's baffling.
At least
the Knicks
they're
right
doing something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Although you could say just let this current group play and let Thibodeau do what he's going to do and see how they develop.
Yeah, Thibodeau can take a horrible team and make them close to 500.
Right, but give them a whole season, and then you should have a much better idea of really what holes they need to fill, and you can then look at what players are going to.
Right. And then you also have players who, if they are valuable assets in a trade, they have their stock goes up because they're playing more, and hopefully their production goes up.
Right.
So Kevin Knox, who was a first round pick, doesn't play half the time. So you got you got guys who are going to demand, who are being paid money and you wasted big picks on them to not play basketball. And so we'll see. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're probably going to be 10, 15 games under 500. And that's okay. That's a big improvement from last year.
It's a huge improvement. Yeah.
Huge improvement.
Shouldn't set the bar too high to begin with.
No. But we shouldn't, much like the New York Giants, we shouldn't be talking about accepting. This is the New York Knicks. We've been accepting horrific performances by this team for way too long. And it's not going to change until the ownership changes and somebody comes in and says, you know what? I'm going to get people here. I am going to convince X free agent, who's the top free agent, that this is the place to come to play.
Sure. No. We will see what happens with that. I hope that some of those moves can start, sooner than later. But, it would be nice to get the Knicks back to that level that they used to be at and were at for perennially every year.
I mean, look, if the Knicks, if getting Derrick Rose and maybe one other player here or there can get them into the playoffs, then that's great. That's a big. And
it also gets some of these young players some playoff
You know what it does? It puts them on television in the playoffs, and people start to watch basketball.
There you go.
That's what it does. It puts them on. It puts the Knicks back into the national spotlight, and that's what they need.
And they haven't been in the national spotlight since Jeremy Lin.
Oh yeah, Linsanity. Although there's talk of Jeremy Lin coming back in the NBA. I doubt it would be with the Knicks, but. He had those great 3 games.
He was a very, very pleasant distraction.
It was 4 games.
Linsanity. 4 games. That's right.
4 games.
That's right.
Linsanity.
Yes,
right
that's
there.
right. He was the Daniel Jones of the Knicks.
Daniel Jones of the Knicks. Oh man.
Didn't quite cost him as much.
Not really. No. So, all right. Well, I mean, we'll see how that all plays out. We're approaching halfway through. By the time next week's podcast happens, we'll be halfway through the season. So we'll, or just about, maybe a game shy of halfway through the season. But we'll see.
We'll know exactly the same amount then as we know.
We'll know exactly what we know now then. So maybe a little bit more.
Maybe.
We'll see. You'll have to tune back in to find out then. So, all right, we'll wrap this show up for today then. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.loggerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at 7:30. And for those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. And we will talk to you soon, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Ciao.
Peace.